As the last traces of daylight disappear here, the Sakhir circuit glowing beneath the floodlights, ready to host the 13th running of a Grand Prix in the kingdom. With one win apiece for Mercedes and Ferrari this year, round 3 of the championship brings us to the Middle East and a circuit that winds in upon itself over a track length of some 3.3 miles. It's a track that's definitely tough on brakes and demands a lot from the power units of the cars as well. And the move to an evening start time locally in 2014 has definitely eased the cooling requirements, which have been eased even more with a drop in temperature here today, so that makes life a little bit easier. In terms of track layout and overtaking, we've got a couple of DRS zones that will help the overtaking. That is down the start-finish straight, and particularly with a headwind blowing up that start-finish straight, we should see some overtaking into turn 1, but there are also some good overtaking opportunities into the many hairpins around this circuit as well. Well, today's notable for the first ever pole position start in Formula 1 for Valtteri Bottas, the 27-year-old from Nastola in Finland. He snatched the top spot from teammate Hamilton yesterday, 5 years to the day that Nico Rosberg took his first ever pole position in China. And on that occasion, Rosberg went on to take his first win. But Lewis Hamilton, always a tough competitor, starting second on the grid, of course, joint championship leader with Sebastian Vettel, and Bottas himself fourth in the points after his opening 2 rounds with Mercedes. He was third in Melbourne, but he finished down in 6th place in China after spinning behind the safety car, something that he's really got to put behind him, and he seemed to do that yesterday by putting the car on pole position. A brilliant return after that error in China last week in tricky conditions. So he becomes the 5th different Finnish driver to take a pole position in Formula 1, following on from the likes of Keke Rosberg, Mika Häkkinen, Kimi Räikkönen and Heikki Kovalainen. So it's Bottas and Hamilton on the front row together. We've got Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo, a Ferrari and a Red Bull, on row 2. Kimi Räikkönen lines up in 5th place, and there's Max Verstappen. Keep an eye on him. Remember his amazing start in China. Admittedly, it was wet there. Nico Hülkenberg has qualified well in 7th place, Felipe Massa in 8th for Williams, and then on the 5th row of the grid, Romain Grosjean and Jolyon Palmer, his best ever qualifying performance. With tyre choice, Daniel Kvyat is first of those in 11th place. Lance Stroll in the 2nd Williams lines up in 12th position, and then a great job from Pascal Wehrlein returning to Formula 1, 13th in the Sauber. Esteban Ocon is 14th, and then 15th place for Fernando Alonso. New engine in his car since yesterday, and for Carlos Sainz alongside in 16th. Both of them have had new engines, but no penalties to be applied. Stoffel van Dorn should have lined up 17th, but he's missing from the grid. Perez is 18th, Ericsson 19th, and at the very back we've got Kevin Magnussen on 20th. Everybody starting on super soft tyres except for Marcus Ericsson, it turns out, and as we know, Stoffel van Dorn will not be taking the start. That is the 2nd time in the last couple of years that McLaren have failed to make the start here. The last time they had a non-start was Jenson Button here in 2015, so this track really has not been good since they've joined forces with Honda, and it's bitterly disappointing that Stoffel van Dorn will not even take the start of this race. We'll have to see whether Alonso is able to get to the end of the race. They've been suffering with failures which Honda really don't understand, whether it's down to the temperatures here, just not sure. But we still have the Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bulls up at the top end of the grid, of course, with Bottas the man on pole position, but Lewis Hamilton, he'll be looking to try and take the start, and of course Sebastian Vettel, who was a non-starter here himself last year, he'll be working hard from 3rd place on the grid. Valtteri Bottas is about to lead the field away for the first time in his F1 career on a formation lap. There he goes. But this race has been won 3 times in the last 4 years by the car starting second, and that's where Lewis Hamilton is. So what's going to happen at the start? There's Mick Doohan, a great racer himself on 2 wheels. His son now doing a lot of karting, David, so might be a future on 4 wheels for the Doohan family.
Yeah, and such is the commitment that's necessary nowadays. They've moved the whole family over from Australia to live in the south of France so he can pursue his karting career. And I saw behind Mick Doohan there, chap that the nickname is Spins. He's sort of right-hand man to Lewis Hamilton, so he's not down in the pit biting his nails. He's up there glad racking it with all the VIPs.
Well, the cars are on their formation lap. We're on board with Sebastian Vettel. Let's get a quick last word before the start of the race from Karun Chandok. Karun.
All radio.
Headwind into 1, changing between 10 and 20 kph.
Yeah, queued me up nicely then. Pete Bonington, yeah, just about talk about the wind. It's still really strong. It's all about the start here. Lewis Hamilton, just chatting with the engineers on the grid from Mercedes, they're not too concerned with the dirty side of the grid. They still think he should be able to get ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Ferrari, though, they'll be really going for it. This is their big chance to get track position off the line.
Yeah, it's the feeling of going off the grid here is more of a sort of drag strip, you know, burning out alongside the car beside you. In China, you have the sort of elevation change, you know, you feel that as you run down to turn 1. Here, it's absolutely let the car go as straight as you can for as long as you can, because as soon as you start introducing steering lock, you introduce friction and therefore a reduction in the acceleration itself. So this is going to be an exercise in who really has that feel for their clutch. How well do they heat the tyres? Track temperature at 30 degrees. I don't think that's quite as hot as it was this time yesterday, and that's probably because of the wind, of course, which is bringing a cooling air across the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely lower temperatures. That's going to be key in this race, I am sure. But Hamilton, who's taken 2 victories here in the past, in 2014 and 2015, of course, up against his teammate who's yet to win a Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel, who's had 2 wins in the past as well. And we've seen how Vettel and Hamilton have matched each other in the championship so far, with that 1 victory and 1 second place each to be tying in the championship coming into this race. But it's Bottas who's got in front of them for the start of this particular encounter, and this is going to be very, very interesting to see how they get on. So Bottas moves his car into position, the number 77 car, his 80th Grand Prix, and he'll be starting it from the top spot. Hamilton moving into second, Vettel third, remember, then Ricciardo fourth, Raikkonen fifth, Verstappen starting 6th, Hulkenberg in 7th, Massa is 8th, Grosjean 9th, Palmer starts a career best 10th, Kvyat is 11th, Lance Stroll is 12th, then Wehrlein, Ocon, Alonso, Sainz. We've got a gap where Van Dorn would have been, he's not starting. We've got Perez, Ericsson and Magnussen down at the back of the grid. All of them just moving into position now. We see the onboard view with Sebastian Vettel. How quick is that Ferrari going to be off the line? Remember, the drivers have much more control over the start this year than they had last year. So if it's a good one or a bad one, a lot more of it is down to the driver himself. So it is Bottas versus Hamilton from the front row. Let's see what's going to happen here in Bahrain. Lights out, away we go, and the 2 Mercedes get off the line pretty evenly so far, and Bottas is going to try and shut the door on Hamilton. Vettel follows. Now who's going to settle into second and third? Vettel goes round the outside of Hamilton, if he can hold on to it, that is, and meanwhile Verstappen's got round the outside of Ricciardo.
Well, I hear your voice just about going there, Ben, with the excitement of that start. And Hamilton got a good getaway initially as we see Raikkonen there with the 2 Red Bulls getting side by side. Bit of a lock-up from Raikkonen as he runs the car into turn 4. But that is a welcome sight for Bottas. The fact he's got Vettel behind him takes the pressure off the fastest car on the racetrack based on our long runs on Friday. So Hamilton out of play right now.
So it's a great start from Bottas ahead of Vettel. Hamilton, look at this 3x3 as that's Kvyat on the outside having a big old battle with Grosjean and Hulkenberg down at the lower end of the top 10, and Vettel right behind Hamilton here, behind Bottas, with Hamilton still in third place. Little battle there as well between Ocon and Palmer. It's all going off on this first lap, isn't it? Great stuff. But Bottas at the moment stays in front of Vettel. Then it's Hamilton. Then it is Verstappen ahead of Ricciardo. Look at Palmer having a look down the inside, and I think he's done it.
Yeah, and his teammate Hulkenberg had a lock-up running into that turn as well, so as he picked up a flat spot on the other Renault. But Look at that, round the outside of turn 11.
That's Carlos
impressive.
Sainz going really on.
Turn 12,
Kvyat.
excuse me.
He's got damage, hasn't he? Something wrong with Kvyat's car. I think we'll have to see whether he can rejoin or not, but not good news. He's dropped back to the rear of the field, and Wehrlein's dropped a lot of places on this opening lap as well. Started 13th, but he finds himself down at the back. Bottas already under pressure from the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. Then Lewis Hamilton keeping a watching brief in 3rd place.
Bottas feeling the need to go a little bit defensive into turn 1 already, when he was basically defending thin air there. Vettel was nowhere near close enough, so that just compromises a bit his braking down into turn 1.
Well, the two Red Bulls just finding themselves a bit of space now. Verstappen fighting hard for that position, wasn't he, on the opening lap with Ricciardo. They did both survive it, but it looked pretty fraught at times. Jolyon Palmer has dropped down to 12th place. Lance Stroll here, he's dropped down to 14th place. And Alonso is down in 15th, so hasn't really been able to gain anything much during this. Riding with Lance Stroll, though, and of course he's desperately trying to get a race finish today. Last time out, he crashed out on the first lap with Sergio Perez.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity to see the Williams dashboard. You can see the battery icon that was displayed in the middle, and that tells them the state of charge of the battle. There's Vettel very much keeping the pressure on Bottas, not allowing him the comfort zone of not being able to look in his mirrors and see a sea of red. And he'll be trying to keep that pressure up until he gets the DRS. That's going to have a much bigger effect. If you remember Karun in the build-up talking about the headwind down into turn 1. So Vettel will have worked all that out and is trying to be within that 1 second window to benefit.
Massa's had a reasonably good start as well. He's running in 6th place in the Williams, chased by Kimi Raikkonen, who started 5th but is now in 7th. Raikkonen. Hulkenberg in 8th place has dropped 1 position from where he started, lost to Massa as well. So that was a really good opening in lap 4, Felipe Massa in the Williams. So now let's just watch these two and see whether the Ferrari gets any closer. No, not at this point. No threat just yet to Bottas.
Yeah, Bottas was still on a slightly defensive line, so he's as we go into the stage now where the DRS is enabled, he's sort of sending the message there to Vettel, I am ready to defend, don't even think about coming down my inside on the brakes.
Yeah, well, it's important this lap, isn't it, that he really tries to make a bit more of a break, and he's just about managing it. It depends whether he can get more than a second ahead of that Ferrari, and then the DRS won't work for Sebastian Vettel, so we'll have to see if that's going to operate. There's Esteban Ocon in the Force India. He's up in 10th again. He likes that 10th place. He's finished 10th twice already this year in the 2 Grand Prix we've had, but he's been hunted down by Carlos Sainz. Meanwhile, we're here with Max Verstappen, and Verstappen, who's had that good start, he's gained 2 places from his, well, he gained 1 place from his original starting position. No, 2 places, that's right, because he was 6th on the grid. So good first lap.
Vettel, yeah, Vettel using DRS on the back straight to get onto the gearbox of Bottas. So, well, Bottas will know as he goes up through 12 into 13, I'm going to be under pressure into turn 1. So he's 2-3 corners ahead in his mind. He's got to try and ace the last turn. Uses the fact he's got clean air as he comes off a 13 onto the back straight. He'll be trying to do the same, but it's less effective in 14 because it's a lower speed corner. Looks to me like he's got a big enough gap, but let's just wait and see. Let's sort of drive. Vettel gets off the turn.
Well, it didn't look as though he had a massively big advantage off that last corner. And as they come down the main straight, he's certainly not close enough yet, but the DRS is in operation now into this headwind. He closes the gap, but he's certainly not quite close enough to attack. And look at now, Raikkonen with the DRS also on Felipe Massa, getting much, much closer to the Williams.
The pack is still reasonably bunched up, considering we've just out of the 4th lap, so it suggests that Bottas is trying to manage the pace as well as that gap to Vettel.
Massa still fending off the Ferrari of Raikkonen. Hulkenberg is in 8th place. Grosjean's in 9th. Ocon still in 10th place. Karun.
Yeah, just looking at the straight line speeds there, guys. 16k faster was Sebastian Vettel in that slipstream. So I wonder if it's a bit like Melbourne. He's just biding his time, waiting to apply the pressure at the key moment. Valtteri Bottas, he might be leading the Grand Prix from pole position for the first time, but he has led races before. He's a champion in Formula 3, champion in GP3, so he does know how to lead races. A lot more pressure, though, in a Formula 1 Grand Prix.
That's right, yes, it's a different story, especially when you've got a 4-time world champion, Sebastian Vettel, chasing you along the way. On board here with Kimi Raikkonen, he's still trying to find a way past Felipe Massa. And just looking down the order, outside the points, Carlos Sainz, but he has gone well on these opening laps. He's following Esteban Ocon as Raikkonen's really getting himself into position for the next straight to try and overtake.
Well, hearing there's been some radio chatter between Bottas and his engineer, who's been warned that Vettel's in DRS position and used the overtake, which is effectively what they would be using the whole lap around in qualifying, as we've got Raikkonen goes wide out the final turn as he tries to get onto the gearbox of the Williams of Massa. But so we know Bottas is then pushing the engine quite hard down into turn 1 to try and defend, but you can see his pace isn't quick enough, and that's the message that Ricciardo's been told by his engineer. The pace is not that quick, and that's been reflected in how close the field is.
So let's take another look at the start, David.
So Hamilton's initial getaway wasn't too bad, but it was the second phase of the start that he started to struggle, and that's really where, as well, that's not the main action, but it's in the second phase that Vettel really was able to hook it up, and then on the cleaner side of the track was able to break around the outside. I think what they were seeing there from the host broadcaster was a little off-the-shoulder number available at your high street stores. We weren't seeing any of the car action. And then you go Vettel just on the brakes, able to carry the speed around, and everyone nice and tidy, best behaviour, no contacts like we've seen in previous years.
Yeah, Verstappen had a very good first corner as well, didn't he? And then, so Kimi Raikkonen actually lost out after that, look, because he was ahead of Massa at this point, but he then locks up and runs wide. This is Vettel's start. Yeah,
see, Hamilton initially gets the pull away, but then on the next phase of the start, he just seems to... you know, actually, Vettel's probably benefiting a distant toll from Bottas as he was running down into turn 1. Brave enough to take it round the outside on the brakes.
Oh, look at that, the way it spun up the rear wheels. This is Hamilton's start, David.
Yep. And there you go. Last phase of the start. He spun up the wheels as we see the leaders pass by our commentary box, and Vettel not quite close enough to actually get into a position to overtake Hamilton. Just misses his front wing end plate on the back of the Ferrari, and then you can see, well, the Ferrari team understandably happy with that.
This was Max's start, and we'll see how he got past his teammate Daniel Ricciardo here, I think.
So does he go left and around the outside? Yep, Daniel hugs the inside line, and then he's just able to use the confidence of the clean track and run it right round the outside.
Beautifully done, and Ricciardo must be frustrated because every time the last couple of races Verstappen's found a way to pass him in the tricky conditions in China. Let's listen.
So getting a little bit of overheating now, but not significant.
Vettel is very close behind him, there's no doubt about it.
I'm going to assume he's talking about brakes or tyres, because he can't be talking about the engine. He's running in clean air.
Yeah.
So one of those, and Valtteri will have that information on his dashboard, and could well be tyres as they run the car with 100 kilos off the line, well, actually more than that now, to accommodate the fact these cars have more drag over last year.
Massa still fending off Raikkonen. Karun.
Yeah, just looking at what Lewis Hamilton's going to do, because I think he's got more pace than Bottas at this stage. Bottas does look like he's not quite able to break away. The DRS obviously helping the guys behind. I wonder if Hamilton is going to try and do a big undercut and jump ahead of both the cars ahead of him if he can't do it on the straight. But Bottas, pretty good straight line speed there coming out of the last corner, despite the fact that Vettel's in the slipstream and got DRS. He doesn't seem to be really in a position to attack Bottas at the end of the straight. So pretty good straight line speed there from the Mercedes, punching out of the last corner. You do wonder if he's using a more aggressive fuel engine mode, which could hurt him later in the Grand Prix.
Well, that's a good point. Fuel usage is quite high on this racetrack, so Bottas, I think, will be saving as much of his electrical energy for coming out of the last corner, turn 14, and to be defensive there. And this is quite a clever strategy from Bottas, because it puts Vettel under pressure from Hamilton. And we have to assume Bottas can run a faster pace than this, based on what we saw on the longer runs on Friday. So is he tactically, like we saw Hamilton do with Nico Rosberg in Abu Dhabi, is he backing Vettel up into Hamilton to try and take the threat away from the Ferrari?
Oh, it's an interesting one. Or is he keeping Hamilton within range of the Ferrari as well? In some ways, it allows Hamilton to be right there. But look at Verstappen and how he's staying with those top three.
Yeah, Bottas is under pace right now. You know, if that's the maximum pace he can run, then he has an issue. And as Karun mentioned, the undercut becomes effective if a car's running below its optimal pace.
So the top 10 at the moment sees Valtteri Bottas leading from Vettel, Hamilton, and then Verstappen. Ricciardo's in 5th place. Felipe Massa's just hanging on to 6th place from Raikkonen. Hülkenberg is 8th, Grosjean 9th, Ocon is in 10th. Sykes is still chasing him in 11th place. Then we have Perez ahead of Palmer, who's down in 13th position. Stroll is still in 14th place. And then we've got Alonso, Magnussen, Wehrlein, Kvyat, Ericsson, and of course no Van Dorn. He didn't start the race. Still no change just there, but in the background, look at Kimi Räikkönen. He's closer to Massa this time. He's going to go for it. Kimi Räikkönen down the inside into turn 1, and with the help from the drag reduction system on the Ferrari, that was a fairly clean overtaking move for the Ferrari. He's up into 6th place now, and he can go chasing after those 2 Red Bulls up ahead of him, unless Massa's going to have a little think at coming back at him. I don't think he will here.
Yeah, well, 37.3 for Räikkönen. As you see the pass here, pops his rear wing open, gets the overspeed out of the slipstream. Felipe Massa doesn't choose to try and defend. He knows he doesn't have the overall pace of the Ferrari car. So this battle for Williams is more about Hülkenberg and Grosjean and Ocon behind.
That's right. So they will have to keep an eye on those cars behind. He's got a little gap over them at the moment, and that's why he doesn't want to fight Räikkönen too much.
So the question is, does Bottas have an issue, or is this super ice-cold Finn controlling the pace under maximum pressure? If he makes one mistake, he can not only find himself second, he can find himself 4th or 5th.
Is he trying to go for a 1-stop and look after the tyres? We're still not sure. We think 2 stops is much more likely, especially starting on the super soft tyres. And just a quick reminder, only 1 driver started on the soft tyre, and that was Marcus Ericsson down at the back. So the 2 Saubers splitting their strategies. Max Verstappen, though, he's not going to be worried about attacking Lewis Hamilton, and he's having a little look at it there. And Ricciardo's not far behind him, but good positioning. But I don't think he's going to have the straight line speed. That's where the Renault engine still isn't quite there with the Mercedes and the Ferrari, and it doesn't allow him to get close enough to attack. Again, Vettel close to Bottas on the way into turn 1, and Ricciardo closing up. What a group this is, David. You don't often see them all concertina together quite as much as this.
No, that's fantastic to see, and again it just shines that spotlight on what Bottas is doing. Is he just having difficulty with the balance of the car at this phase of the race? If we remind ourselves in Melbourne, as we have our first pit, and that's Lance Stroll heading in. That's quite an early stop for him.
He had a flat spot, apparently. He reported it on the radio just a moment or 2 ago. So he flat spotted his tyres in Australia, if you remember, as well on the opening lap. Not sure where it occurred this time, but it is a very early pit stop. Karun.
The top 5 cars radio.
We are quicker than them, but I got stuck.
Yeah, I was about to say, the top 5 guys, only 2.6 seconds. As David mentioned, Bottas does look like he's a stop in the bottle. Guys, the big question for me is who's going to blink first? Whoever pits first and gets the undercut could benefit. We know Mercedes traditionally favor the guy in the lead, but on this occasion, are they going to say to Lewis, you can go first? As we see, Magnussen's pulled over. But yeah, for me, this first stop is critical, because if you pit too early, you can get into trouble later in the Grand Prix. So yeah, lots to watch out for this first pit stop.
I think it's a good point, Karun, and what they'll be looking for is we see a replay of Kevin Magnussen pulling the car off, but they'll be looking for the gap in the traffic. Right now, if Bottas was to stop, it would bring him out behind Alonso, who's running in 14th place. We saw the power of traffic for Hamilton in Australia when he came out behind Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. So they're kind of caught right now in that they want to play the undercut, because quite clearly Bottas is backing the field up, but they don't want to find themselves going out into traffic and then not getting the advantage of the fresh tyres.
Well, it's still keeping it all very close. On lap 10, the yellow flag still for the car of Kevin Magnussen that has pulled off to the side of the road, and that's bitterly disappointing for the Dane after scoring some very useful points last time out in China, the first time he scored with the Haas team. So we're just going to have to see what happens here. This slower pace certainly will make it more tricky to make pit stops and come out in a gap, because of course they're backing themselves into all the traffic.
Starting to lose the race more. His tire is really not feeling so good, so yeah, we've got a problem with the pressures. They're high.
So clearly they're monitoring everything on the car. They can see that the tyre pressures are higher than they would want them to be, and this is proving to be tough for Valtteri Bottas right now.
Yeah, this is maximum pressure as he leads his, well, no, the first Grand Prix is led, but first Grand Prix is leading that he's got a real chance of winning. And the effect of high pressures is that the interaction of the tyre with the tarmac, it stiffens the effective overall spring rate of the car. So takes you into a zone that may not be desirable. As you see, Vettel heads for the pits.
That's going for the early pit stop, lap number 10. So they're going for what's called the undercut to get the new tyre on and to get the really quick lap times out of it. It does indicate it's very much a two-stop race, stopping this early in the Grand Prix. But I would think that everyone's going to do that. A second set of the Red Bull Super Soft tyre.
Yeah, he's going racing. Now, the key is, where is he coming out in traffic? I think he will come out behind Alonso. As you see, a whole gaggle of cars on the pit straight, and it's because Bottas has been so slow, then maybe he's just going to get out in front of Alonso, actually, just in front of Palmer and Alonso there, so that releases him into some clean air, and if he can deliver a big lap time.
I think we need to do something as well, like Ferrari.
So Verstappen has seen Vettel pull off and thought that was a good idea, and he's come out, as you say, David, in 12th place, so ahead of Jolyon Palmer and Fernando Alonso, chasing after Sergio Perez in the pink Force India, and just ahead of Perez was Carlos Sainz. So Bottas is still leading this race. It means Hamilton is now in second place, with Vettel having made a stop, brings Verstappen up into third, and Ricciardo into fourth, of course. Is Raikkonen catching them at all? Well, his lap times are, yes, a little quicker than they're doing behind Bottas. So Raikkonen is gradually just bringing the gap down to those ahead of him. He was 2.5 seconds behind Vettel the last time they came around, but of course Vettel since then has come into the pits. Massa still holding on to what is now 6th place. We've got Hulkenberg in 7th, Grosjean in 8th, Ocon in 9th, and the pit stop for Vettel has, for the moment, brought Carlos Sainz into the top 10. You just see Raikkonen in the background trying to close the gap, and we've got another pit visitor, and it's one of the Red Bulls. It's Verstappen. Verstappen is the first of the 2 Red Bulls. He was first on road, so he gets priority treatment. That's the way it works. We've got a camera on the helmet of one of the guys there looking after the car. They send him on his way once again, and Max Verstappen has also gone for a second set of super soft tyres. Let's see where he comes out now relative to Vettel, who's passing Perez and getting ahead of the Force India.
Yeah, that lap time there from Vettel, including the pit stop, 1:54.8. He got Perez out of the way quickly. That gives him another clear gap before he gets to Sainz. Hamilton, much quicker than Bottas last time around. Took 0.7 of a second out of him.
Yeah, look how much closer he is. And it does look like Bottas is struggling, and Hamilton will want to clear him fairly quickly.
Yeah, and Bottas will have, as the lead car, first choice on pit stop. So Hamilton will probably be saying, right, I want to pit. But they'll be saying, well, hold on, you can't until... we've got Red Bull in the barrier.
It's Verstappen. He's crashed on the... he's come back out of the pits, and he's crashed immediately, pretty much. Max Verstappen has taken himself out of the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Let's get a replay. This is up into turn 4, I believe. Fresh super softs on. You're going to see a lock-up here. Very unusual.
And it kept going, David.
Yeah, it's like he had no rear brakes.
Yeah.
Brakes failed.
Brakes failed, he said. Brakes failed, and it certainly looked that way. It just did not slow, did it?
No, and can they recover that car? As Ferrari's pit crew come out into pit lane, that will be for Raikkonen. And, well, we've got the yellows up at that corner, turn 4. It was a longer stop for Red Bull as Raikkonen heads to the pits. Red Bull are also out in the pit lane. That'll be for Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, they're still racing against this Ferrari, remember? So up in the air. Oh, it's slow, and eventually he gets on his way.
I think Max Verstappen's stop was a little bit slow as well, as Hamilton gets right under the chuff of his teammate Bottas.
Oh, look at Max's reaction, kicking the barrier. It's rare to see him go out of a Grand Prix. He has not had a non-finish for a few races. I think it was back in USA was the last time, and that was a mechanical problem. Vettel is the fastest man on track at the moment, but Hamilton wants to do something about Bottas up ahead.
Well, not just the fastest man, massively quicker than what's happening out front. So Mercedes have to react to this.
Yeah. They've got to do something, otherwise they are handing the victory to Vettel. And a spin for Stroll. So Lance Stroll now. And he's actually hit stuff as well.
Where's that? That's a marker board.
Yeah, the polystyrene all over the place.
That car looks to me as if it's stalled, so can he restart it?
This could be a safety car.
I got hit from the side.
Oh, he says he got hit from the side. He says he got hit. Safety car comes out. Now, this could be very helpful for Mercedes.
Yeah, but they're going to have to stack him.
And Carlos Sainz has stopped. Did they make contact?
Yeah, that could well explain that one. But this plays into Bottas's hands because they'll have to stack the cars and effectively they get a free stop, but still Hamilton has to wait in line.
Yeah, and this will certainly help Mercedes. They're coming in this lap. Vettel, by the way, is heading down towards the last corner.
What happened to Hamilton? He's dropped way back from Bottas. Now, has he done that deliberately just to slow down the Red Bull? So he's strategically holding the Red Bull. Look at him staying out in the pit lane. Now he comes in. Get out of the way, Bottas, he's saying. Thank you. Almost timed it to perfection.
Yeah, that was very cleverly done by Hamilton, doing the best he could. In comes Massa as well. So Bottas is on his way, but look at Ricciardo.
Slow stop for Hamilton, though. Ricciardo's got in and out, despite being held up.
That's crucial. It was a 6.4 second stop for Lewis Hamilton, and it was a slow stop for Bottas as well, 6.2. I wonder what happened on his car. Nico Hülkenberg brings his car into the pits. Lance Stroll is getting away from his one. So there was contact by the sound of things, presumably between him and Sainz, but we haven't seen any replays as yet. We're about to find out, David.
Okay, so running nicely down at 200 miles an hour into the first braking zone. Goes to turn in. Whack. Oh, a big hit from the rear. So let's assume that was the Toro Rosso.
Yeah, it was. Well, we picked it up quite late there in the corner.
Yeah, so we need to see earlier whether that was a legitimate attempt at an overtake or whether that was just an error of judgment.
Saw a big accident down there some years ago when Gutierrez ended up upside down in that same place. Well, again, we took it up quite late, so we need to see it from further back, really, don't we?
Yeah. Let's listen to Sainz.
It's me. Stroll hit me. He didn't see me coming in the inside. It was, he just, tell me, turned into me, like if I was not there.
He was coming out of the pits, David. That's where Stroll didn't know he was there. Now, presumably the team would have told him, would they?
Well, you'd like to think so. Normally the team would give that information, but certainly looked somewhat optimistic there from Sainz. You see his mother Claire Anne there and his sister. And, well, it must be nervous times as they ride the Formula One roller coaster. That looked to me like Sainz just overcooked it on the inside line. You know, Stroll was definitely ahead.
Just a quick point, though, to all this. With those pit stops, we thought Mercedes would have a free pit stop. They haven't. Because the Mercedes pit stops were slow, Vettel is leading this Grand Prix. So Sebastian Vettel has come out in front after all this with that early pit stop and the slow pit stops for the two Mercedes cars. Very interesting that. So Vettel now leads them behind the safety car, just to get that important message across, and Hamilton finds himself down in 4th place behind Vettel, Bottas and Ricciardo. So let's have a look at the pit stop.
So Bottas a bit slow getting away. Let's try and understand why Hamilton was so slow. Fronts are off and on. Well, problem with the front left. Couldn't get the gun to seat, and that allowed the Red Bull to be long gone.
We didn't see what the delay was on Bottas's car, but we believe there was one. And as you saw from the message, they've also made note of the fact that Hamilton was kind of holding up Ricciardo.
Yeah, but the pit lane is part of the racetrack. This is Raikkonen. This was slow getting the front right off. What's going on today? Maybe the heat.
Temperatures, maybe.
Absolutely, it's a good point. You know, extra heat soak in the wheel and the hub, and it just makes it more difficult. So, Vettel, the big winner.
Correct.
Yeah, Vettel, the big winner. I think it was an effect of those really quick couple of laps. Mercedes waited a bit too long to bring the guys in effectively, although they were helped by the safety car, but Vettel jumped them. And Bottas was held up, guys, because the other cars were coming down the pit lane, also taking advantage of that safety car. That's why Bottas was slow, and that's obviously cost them enough in terms of track position. What's interesting for me, though, at this phase of the Grand Prix, Vettel and Bottas on the super soft tyre, Ricciardo, Hamilton, Massa behind on the soft. So early on, yeah, the leaders could be in a better position, but as the stint goes along, those three guys could really start to come into play and put Vettel and Bottas under pressure. Can Ferrari look after the tyres better than Mercedes? That is going to be the biggest question for the next 25 minutes of this Grand Prix.
Well, that's a good question. So Vettel on the super soft, Bottas also on the super soft tyre, but then Ricciardo and Hamilton on the soft tyre. So's Massa, by the way. So that does show that the Mercedes have gone for different strategies on the two cars out there. But right now, it's Vettel who has track position. Now then, David, we're looking here at when Hamilton was kind of blocking Ricciardo coming into the pits.
Well, the pit lane is part of the racetrack, so, you know, I don't see why there's anything out of order here. He's allowed to be in the pit lane. He's allowed to drive at a speed as long as he's not hindering or causing any sort of issue for the car behind. The question is, what is hindering?
So Ricciardo then made his stop, and that was a relatively clean stop. But walking back is Max Verstappen. He's out of the Bahrain Grand Prix. The top 6 at the moment: Sebastian Vettel leads Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, Felipe Massa and Kimi Raikkonen. We're just looking at the damage to Lance Stroll's car. Christian Horner joins us from the Red Bull pit wall. Christian, the pit incident there with Hamilton holding up Ricciardo, is that actually an offence? We were just discussing that.
What he did on track behind the safety car is fine. You can create a space there, but in the pit lane, you're not allowed to hold a car back. So slowing in the pit lane, we've seen penalties for that previously. So yeah, that was a little on the naughty side.
Okay, thank you very much, Christian. Interesting to keep an eye on what's going on. Any news on what happened to Max Verstappen?
Yeah, it looks like a rear brake issue. He's lost the rear brakes. So it's a great shame, because I think strategically we're getting ourselves into a good position there, but you know, shame for Max. Great,
well, thanks for joining us. Well, hopefully we'll join you again later on in the race. But right now we're still waiting for the safety car, of course, to come back in. It's clear in sector 1, so I don't think it's going to be too much longer now.
No, when that light stops flashing on the top of the safety car, that's indication to the drivers behind that it's coming in this lap. I expect it to be this lap. We saw Daniel Ricciardo. We didn't quite catch his team radio, but he was suddenly weaving around trying to get some front performance and some bite out of it, which is surprising given the ambient temperature here. But everyone trying to get a feel, and well, the first 2 cars on the Supersoft, they're going to have to bolt and go. And we'll find out now whether Bottas did have an issue with that previous set of tyres. He should be able to put Vettel under pressure as the safety car comes in this lap.
So the lights go out. We are ready to go racing in a moment. The safety car will disappear down towards the pit lane. Vettel gets the timing of the restart, and then he will launch himself away from Valtteri Bottas when he feels the moment is exactly right. Look at all 4 of them. This is fantastic, isn't it? Vettel, Bottas, Ricciardo, Hamilton, all together. Massa's close in there as a result of the safety car. They're all bunched up. The whole field is bunched up. 15 cars. We've already lost 5 from this Grand Prix, and we're racing once again. And Sebastian Vettel immediately on the pace. Watch for any opportunistic manoeuvres here. Lewis Hamilton will be desperate to try and get past Daniel Ricciardo quickly. He's had a good exit there.
Yeah, he's close enough. Daniel's going to have to go defensive down into turn 1. Hamilton needs to get this move out of the way early and get himself back into play for the win of this race. Vettel defensive on Bottas. Look for Bottas trying to get the cleaner run all the way up to turn 4.
But Hamilton's done it. He's got past Ricciardo. Ricciardo sliding around in the background. Hamilton into 3rd place. But look at Vettel under pressure from Bottas. Wonderful stuff here. And Vettel really having to defend hard down into turn 4. Oh, and Bottas trying to go around the outside. Oh, he can't quite do it. But that's good stuff. It's like what we saw from Rosberg and Hamilton here in 2014. Really good racing between the 2 of them.
Yeah, brave stuff from Bottas, but Vettel does what he's allowed to do, which is to use all the racetrack on the exit of 4 and just shows them some of the sandy run.
So now Vettel makes that little break thanks to that attempt from Bottas to get past. Meanwhile, look at Massa ahead of Ricciardo, and Raikkonen challenging Ricciardo as well. So this restart's not gone well for Ricciardo, whether it's not because he's not been able to get heat in these tyres. These guys around him, well, Massa's on the same tyre, but Raikkonen on the softer, super soft tyre, and Ricciardo's sliding.
Yeah, that's right. And gets around the outside as they go through turn 12. So Daniel Ricciardo's lost out on the restart here.
Big time. He has dropped down to 6th place, and he's under attack from Hulkenberg.
Yeah. Question is, can he make it to the end of the Grand Prix on those soft tyres? Technically, in terms of where he can, as we see the Force India having a go on Hulkenberg.
Yeah, that's Perez down the inside of Hulkenberg. These 2 former teammates when they were both at Force India. Good restart that for Sergio Perez. And
but look for Hulkenberg coming back. Perez will get DRS, but so will Hulkenberg.
Okay, so let's keep it together. These tyres will come good.
These tyres will come good, he's being told, is Ricciardo, because he's on the harder compound tyre. They could, in theory, go almost all the way to the end on those tyres. It does depend, though, on the degradation towards the end of the race. It might be too far.
Yeah, the tyres tend to, and especially in a race like this, as the track actually rubbers in, your degradation improves during the course of the Grand Prix.
Palmer versus Alonso, and he's gone a little bit wide there. Alonso fighting his way through. Alonso's car still running in this race after the Van Dorn not even able to start, and Alonso's gone up into 12th position. Danny Kvyat's just behind them. You're on board with Palmer. That restart was quite interesting. Mark Webber, you've got some comments to make on it.
Yeah, it just goes to show you how pivotal those restarts are, right? So I think, you know, Sebastian Vettel, we know he's phenomenal with clean air, so he absolutely nailed the timing on the restart. But what's interesting for me was how big the Mercedes engine seemed to be on that first lap. So they put a lot of pressure on Sebastian with Valtteri Bottas, and also with Lewis, here we go, clearing Daniel Ricciardo very, very easily. So the warm-up as well on the tyres, not really a big issue for Lewis, but a big issue for Daniel. So it really opens up some weaknesses, some interesting challenges for the teams and drivers on restarts, which is quite interesting, and it's opened the race up again. In terms of strategy now, there's still a lot to go.
Yeah, a long way to go still. Just looking at how Raikkonen got past Ricciardo here, David.
Yeah, well, he goes to the outside as they break down into turn 11. Daniel defends that, but runs a little bit wide. That allows Raikkonen on the softer tyres to get a better drive off 11 and effectively take that position through 12. One man that will be relishing the extra practice for restarts will be Fernando Alonso, because Indianapolis 500 in the month of May, they have several restarts.
Kvyat had a look at getting past Palmer there, but didn't make it. Wehrlein still at the back of the group in the Sauber, dropping away a little bit now.
Guys, I've got them. I'm ripping on every straight line a lot.
We're checking. The MG UK is there. Not sure why you're slow.
Problems for Grosjean, struggling a little bit. He's in the top 10. There he is in the number 8 car, but fighting to stay ahead of Ocon in the Force India. He's still chasing Nico Hülkenberg in the Renault. This midfield group, these 3 cars, along with Toro Rosso and to a certain extent McLaren in their current state, are all incredibly competitive with one another. Having said that, Perez is having a great run at the moment. Look, he's catching Ricciardo up ahead of them. Hülkenberg's the one that's struggling a little bit. Grosjean, as we heard, seems to be struggling for straight line speed, although right now that looks pretty good. And then in the background you've got Ericsson under pressure from Alonso. Alonso's going to try and go around the outside. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, he cut back as he runs up to 12 and try and do what Raikkonen did to the Red Bull.
Oh, he's done it. Fabulous stuff from Alonso.
Brave boy. That's a man brave enough to go on average 220 miles an hour around the Brickyard.
Exactly. Karun.
Yeah, quick line on Perez. He's moved up 11 places from where he started. It was a really, really good effort. Up at the front, though, Vettel, a new fastest lap. He's put the hammer down, opening up that gap to the Mercedes. Do you really think Lewis is going to try and get to the end of one stop? I think they've all got to do another pit stop somewhere between lap 30-35 as we see the Renault coming down past Ericsson.
Yeah, this is Jolyon Palmer now making the move on the Sauber. The brake discs glowing brightly.
Well, Fernando goes wide because he thinks those guys are going to pile into him, so he just left a whole bunch of air there just in case they got it wrong. It means he has to go a bit defensive against the Renault as they come up to turn 4. He's loving this. He doesn't have a chance of winning the Grand Prix, but he can show the youngsters how to race.
Yeah, he can. And Danny Kvyat now getting alongside the Sauber of Ericsson as well. Not quite. Very nearly, though. And behind them, Pascal Wehrlein joining in as well. So this is great when the safety car bunches everybody up and you get these battles throughout the field. This is right down the order. But behind, of course, this is last place there because we've lost several cars already in this Grand Prix. We've lost Lance Stroll.
Down the inside.
Yeah,
nice move.
That was a good move. Neat and tidy move by Danny Kvyat. And now the 2 Saubers are together, and of course there's going to be great rivalry between them. But we go back on board with Lewis Hamilton here. Vettel still up front. He's got a 5-second penalty for driving unnecessarily slowly on the pit entry. Now this will be added to his next pit stop, assuming he makes another pit stop, of course, which we think he will. But that is a big blow, David, to his chances.
Yeah.
Pick up the pace, can't let the Ferrari go away.
Okay, copy.
So yeah, he says trying to pick up the pace as well on the radio a moment ago. Can't let Ferrari go away, and that's what he's trying to do. But now we know that he's got a 5-second time penalty. That is going to hinder him somewhat. So let's see what happens here. Vettel is now the race leader in the Ferrari. He's got a 2.2 second gap over Valtteri Bottas, who's still looking for his first ever victory in Formula One. And Valtteri's been told you need to be within a second of Vettel, and you have 2 laps to achieve it. So he's under orders to get on with the case and get a little closer to the race leader.
Yeah, well, that's fair comment from the Mercedes team. They're all about winning Grand Prix, not just getting on the podium. So Bottas has got his moment now to try and put pressure on Vettel. I don't see it happening based on his previous lap times, a couple of times slower than Vettel. He can start deploying some more energy, but then he's going to be in a situation where he might have to do a little bit more fuel saving towards the end of the Grand Prix.
Incident between Stroll and Sainz to be investigated after the race. I guess as it doesn't affect the outcome of the race, they're both non-finishers, then they might as well look at it afterwards and study all of the data. I think if one of them was still running, or if they were both still running, if it had been a lighter contact, they would have made a decision during the race so that everybody knows where they stand.
They are swapping drive position, Hamilton and Bottas.
Are they swapping positions? We shall see. Bottas still second at the moment. Ferrari think they're going to swap them around.
Well, they're listening to the radio transmissions. Hamilton definitely keeping enough pressure on Bottas and not able to go any faster. Vettel another, what's that, 4 or 5 tenths quicker than Bottas, so he's not reacting. You know, it's a little bit like we saw in Melbourne. Bottas in the first phase of the race was really struggling relative to Hamilton's pace, but then he really came on strong in the second half.
I can't catch him. If I get past him, I can't catch him. I'll let him back.
So Hamilton saying he can't catch him, but well, are they going to change things? They are on different tyres here, remember?
Yeah, but that's why Bottas should be going away. He's on a softer tyre. And okay, he can argue, I'm trying to make the tyres have as much life as possible. But now that Hamilton has a 5-second penalty, he'll more than likely be behind Bottas at the end of the Grand Prix anyway when that's applied. So it makes sense. You know, unless Bottas can close the gap to Vettel, release Hamilton, see what he can do.
Yeah, makes sense, but we shall see what happens. Meanwhile, Felipe Massa is in 4th place at the moment. Good run for the Williams. Actually, Bottas has had a 4th place with Williams here in the last couple of years, but it's a very good run for Massa at the moment. But of course, he's still got Raikkonen behind him. Max Verstappen has made it back to the Red Bull pit after suffering brake failure, which has taken him out of the race. Bitterly disappointing because he made a good pit stop at just the right time. He would have been in this lead battle, I am sure. But Ricciardo, who's still out there on the soft tyres, struggling a little bit for tyre grip, particularly on warm-up after the safety car. So he's dropped behind Massa and Raikkonen, and he's just under 2 seconds behind them at the moment. Not much change up front. Vettel's lead, 2.8 seconds. Hamilton, about, well, you can see from the graphic there, he's 1.3 seconds behind, so he's just outside DRS range. Raikkonen having a go at getting past Massa, but it clearly didn't come off. That was down into turn 1.
Yeah, that was obviously a late move on the brakes. Massa gave him just enough space, so there was no contact, but not enough for Raikkonen to actually take the position. Raikkonen needs a good result. There were some questions from the senior management at Ferrari about his use of the radio in China, and it's very reminiscent of last season, where at the beginning of the year he just couldn't really get comfortable with the car, and then second half of the season as he locks up massively as he runs down into turn 8. And yeah, but second half of the season he seemed to get himself sorted out and looked like he genuinely deserved to continue for another year.
Let's see what he does. He's got a great record of getting podium finishes here in Bahrain, so let's see whether that happens. Karun, we're just over 1/3 distance into this race. What can you see developing over the next few laps?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what Lewis and Mercedes are going to do, because with that 5-second penalty, you know, if he does another pit stop, there's no way he's going to undercut Bottas or Vettel. So, you know, do they start thinking, hang on, can we try and go slower, just nurse these tyres all the way to the end of the Grand Prix and get 5 seconds added on the end, see where we end up, roll the dice that way?
How are the tyres now, Daniel? How are the tyres? Haven't got worse, but haven't got better.
So improving a little bit now, perhaps, for Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, it's interesting, Karun, that you say that. Whether he could take them all the way to the end of the race.
Well, if he pits again, as we see Raikkonen gets the pass done and Massa down into turn 1.
Second time he's had to do that, but of course they got mixed around after the pit stops and the safety car period. So Kimi Raikkonen takes 4th place once again, and now he tries to close the gap to Lewis Hamilton.
So Hamilton on the soft tyre, from a life point of view, and in those tyres, he could make it to the end. The fuel burns off, the circuit rubber's in, the track temperature stable, will drop to degree. So nice on the brakes here. Great pass there from Raikkonen.
Yeah, Ben. I mean, David, just on your point, as we see this great battle here.
Yeah, Palmer and Kvyat and Alonso, who's now dropped back, and Kvyat on the dirt there, side by side. Alonso's going to try and take advantage once again. These guys all fighting over 11th. Alonso was 11th, and now suddenly he finds himself back in 13th place. I'm not quite sure what happened earlier on with that. We kind of picked up the whole dice a little bit later, but I think he might have another go at getting past Danny Kvyat. Back to you, Karun, while it's all going on.
Yeah, very feisty stuff from Jolyon Palmer, former race winner here in GP2, it must be said. Yeah, just on Hamilton's, you're right, David. The wear life isn't an issue. The issue is temperature, thermal deg, what they call in terms of the actual temperature of the rear tires. That's been the bigger issue. Perhaps with these cooler temperatures, they could try and do something different. It's not going to be easy. We looked at the Formula 2 race earlier today, and, you know, the guys at the end were losing 2-3 seconds a lap, and that is a risk for Lewis Hamilton. So, you know, I think it's a risk, but he might try it.
How the hell they can overtake me? 300 meters behind me at the beginning of the straight. I never raced with less power in my life. How is it possible?
I never raced with less power, he says. He's really finding it hard at the moment. Is Alonso being passed by a car, he said, that was 300 meters behind him at the start of the straight. Kvyat down the inside of Palmer. Has he made the move stick? Palmer's not giving up.
Contact clipped the back of him, so he's damaged his front wing end plate. Will that have damaged the rear tyre of the Toro Rosso? Alonso comes into play.
He's going to go for the outside move. Try and sweep around the outside into turn 4. Then maybe cut back, lovely cut back. If Kvyat runs wide, then it'll work for him. Certainly Alonso's getting stuck into some hard racing here. But Palmer is the one who's got himself back into 11th place.
Yeah, that releases him. You see the gap to Palmer up front now as Daniel had to go defensive on Alonso. He's all over him like a rash right now, but not impressed with the power on the back of that car.
Got a yellow in sector 1, whether that's for any debris that may be down there from... There did seem to be a little bit of contact between them. Alonso just trying to get everything right so that he can attack again. For McLaren, of course, it's not really where they want to be seeing their cars fighting, but he's still engaged with Kvyat for now.
A lot of brake dust coming off the front axle of the Toro Rosso, and we have seen that when you get that level of brake dust coming off early in a Grand Prix, it can put you marginal on brakes. This is a high brake wear racetrack.
It is debris at turn 1 that is the cause of the yellow flag at the moment. Meanwhile, up front, Sebastian Vettel is building a bigger and bigger lead. He's got it to nearly 5 seconds now, Sebastian Vettel, over Valtteri Bottas, who then has Lewis Hamilton chasing him within 3/4 of a second. Let's have a look at this again.
Right, there was a bit of debris that flew off. Now, was this off the back of the... was this off the front wing of the Renault? Yes, it was. He's broken his front wing and clipped the back of the Toro Rosso. So how's that going to affect his downforce? If that little flap doesn't do anything, you do ask your aero department, why did we bother fitting it in the first place? So that must affect the balance of that Renault.
Yeah, but, well, he's still running at the moment. Stoffel Van Dorn just watching the monitors at the moment there at the McLaren pit wall. Never got to even start this race.
He's going, can I do Indianapolis 500 as well, please?
Yes, he might well be saying that.
We must be able to find someone who wants to race in McLaren and Monaco.
Chat going on between Christian Horner and Max Verstappen. Looks like they've picked up the debris down there at turn 1. Hopefully they've got that sorted out, and Sebastian Vettel continues to lead, so no need for a safety car or virtual safety car period. Hamilton still chasing after his teammate though, and really wants to try and get past.
Yeah, the Mercedes have to get Bottas out of the way now and release Hamilton. He's on a harder tyre and going faster than Bottas, and this is just playing into... This is, you know, not really putting any pressure under the Ferrari as Hamilton goes on the brakes. Bottas doesn't go overly defensive. So that, to me, is an instruction from the team, and Bottas has responded.
Lewis Hamilton into second place then, with half distance pretty much completed in the Bahrain Grand Prix, but we know he's got a 5-second time penalty that will be added either at his next stop or at the end of the Grand Prix.
If they want to try and win this, they've got to try and make it to the end in one stop, because that's the only thing that will give them track position, plus the 5 seconds at the end of the Grand Prix over Vettel. If he can't get there on the tyres, then you know, he's looking at second or third, assuming the Ferrari doesn't have any technical issues.
Teams are still trying to understand the tyres, I think, pretty much. Mercedes was told over the radio, we think we should be faster at this time. We're having to review the situation, and he's worried about destroying his tyres, so maybe he is trying to do a stint all the way to the end, but that might be asking too much. But he has been released now in front of Bottas, and Bottas finds himself down in third. Lance Stroll, for the third Grand Prix in succession, David, fails to finish a race. It's been a desperately disappointing start, and certainly the first two were not his fault. We still haven't really determined enough whether today was his fault or not.
I don't think it was his fault. He was on track, on the racing line, and you know, a car came out of the pits, so you can't, you know, the mirrors and everything. It's not like they were battling it out on the brakes. On the positive side, though, as he walked past there on his mobile phone, it allows him to play Candy Crush.
These races are overheating for sure. The soft is going to be better.
So Merck have swapped the cars, so Bottas is now the car in front. He's not particularly quick.
Yeah, and from what Bottas was saying, he's not enjoying being on those Red Bull super soft tyres. He thinks the softs are better, and Raikkonen's catching, isn't he?
Yeah, and but not just that. Look at Bottas's last lap, 37.2,
yeah,
2.3 seconds slower than Hamilton. So what's going on with the Mercedes on the super soft?
Really doesn't seem happy at all, and that's going to allow Raikkonen to gradually close up. There's 6.2 seconds gap, though, when they came across the line last time. Here we are with Ricciardo now. He's catching Massa. Ricciardo had such a difficult kind of restart after the safety car period, dropped him back down the order, but now the car seems to be working better. Mind you, Massa is also on the same type of tyre, but fundamentally the Red Bull is a faster car, as we've seen throughout the season so far. So this is going to be a bit of a tall order, I think, for Massa to protect position. And really what Williams will be thinking more about, once again, is the battle with Force India and Renault further behind, and not too far behind either. So they've got to keep an eye on Perez and Hülkenberg, and may not want to lose time battling with Ricciardo. Corinne, what have you got for us?
Yeah, just keeping in mind what tyres people had. I mean, Bottas and Hamilton both came into the Grand Prix with two new sets, one used set and one new set of the soft tyres. So it's interesting that Mercedes opted to split tyre strategies there. We don't often see that from the team. And yeah, that's not worked out for Bottas. Vettel, though, responding to Hamilton, the gap sort of leveled off at 6 seconds. I think Sebastian Vettel's definitely in the hot seat here, because we know Lewis has that 5-second penalty.
Yeah, it's looking good at the moment for Sebastian Vettel. Let's see what happens in terms of strategies. We're certainly expecting Vettel to have to make another stop. We don't know yet with Hamilton whether he's going to try and make it to the end on the tyres he's on, but as you say, he does have a 5-second penalty anyway. And here comes Ricciardo down the inside of Massa into turn one. Lovely late move, and I think he's just got enough speed through there. Yeah, dived out of the slipstream at the last moment, and Daniel Ricciardo moves into 5th place.
Yeah, but Massa's coming back. He'll find himself on the outside into turn 4. I don't think Massa's in the mood for mixing it too much. I think that under normal race conditions, if they can bring the car home behind the Mercedes, Ferrari and the one remaining Red Bull, then they'll consider that a result.
So behind this group, we've got Perez in 7th place, Hülkenberg is in 8th, Grosjean in 9th, and then we're looking back at this group again. Palmer, Kvyat and Alonso, they're still welded together, these three, in 11th, 12th and 13th places.
Keep your head down. This is an important phase of the race. Stay focused.
Yeah, well, I think Vettel's certainly back to the brilliant best that we've seen from him when he's been winning races for Red Bull in the past. I think he's very focused, good lap times, although Hamilton quicker on the last lap by 0.4 of a second than Sebastian Vettel. So Hamilton's certainly not out of this one yet.
Interesting that the engineer feels the need to transmit that to Vettel. I'm not really sure what it tells him. You know, keep your head down.
Exactly.
It's an important part of the race. Is there any part of a race which isn't important?
Quite.
That's what I'd be asking.
Exactly. The top drivers certainly know that. Alonso still in the mix here, trying to drag that McLaren Honda into a potential top 10 position, although at the moment these three are fighting over 11th place, and it's Esteban Ocon, once again the Frenchman, heading for a 10th place finish. But it would still be a good start to his campaign with Force India if he can get a hat-trick of 10th place finishes.
It's a Crown Prince Salmon there talking to Mick Doohan.
Well,
they're enjoying the race so far. It has been good action across the board. So something's brought. They seem to be able to run closer around this race circuit than we saw in Shanghai and Australia.
Certainly running closely here because Kvyat has a look down the inside of Palmer. Palmer tries to turn in, suddenly finds, they bang wheels, and that's going to give Alonso another chance,
That's right. Well, Palmer looked like he was trying to balance the damage to his front wing there. As Alonso gets to the outside, he'll run out of horses, though, in that Honda. But will he try and hold it on the brakes? No, he doesn't have enough. Shall he do the cutback?
He's having a go at it. Oh, and he's quick, and I think he might have done it. And Palmer, has to slot in behind him.
They're having so much fun.
They really are enjoying themselves. And for Palmer, of course, last year's Renault was a pretty slow car. They were down in the back of the field most of the time. He must be enjoying this dice. This is how it all started.
Well, that was brave by Daniel. Stops the car, didn't force the Renault. Jolien tried to sort of hold it into turn 2, but in the end that's cost him another position. So he opens the steering. Daniel was clearly there, and then this is a point where Jolien really needed to back out of it and be aware of the fact Alonso's behind, but he keeps turning. There's the contact, but wheel to wheel is not a problem, but that compromises his line through too.
Bottas has made a second pit stop, so he's the first of the leaders to make another stop. He's gone on to the soft tyre now, and I think that was a much more effective stop. Yes, a nice quick one for Valtteri Bottas. So he will re-emerge, but he will have lost several places as a result. It will drop him into 7th place by the looks of things, just ahead of Nico Hülkenberg and Romain Grosjean, with Perez not far behind. Now he should have good pace in this car, but how many places is he going to be able to pick off?
It'll be interesting to see his lap time. Now he's in the same tyre as Hamilton. That'll be his final stop. He'll be trying to take those to the end. So if he's only running at the same pace as Hamilton, then that would indicate to me that Hamilton should have enough tyre life to not have to stop again. But it's a big one, isn't it? Because Ferrari, they have that luxury of being able to wait to see if Hamilton blinks, and if he doesn't, then they'll try and stay out there. We know the tyre wear on the Ferrari has been good, but he is on the super soft, and they're a telltale sign as he under-rotates that front left. Just look at the physical damage to the surface of that tyre. So the super soft, Vettel is going to have to come in for another set, I would imagine.
Yes, I would have thought so. And there you can see the gap between Vettel and Hamilton, and as they go across the line, it's 5.0 seconds. He gained another 0.2 of a second on that lap.
So Vettel right now, is he running at the maximum pace he can, or is he just trying to play the dummy on Hamilton and run the tyres, underperform the outright pace, but try and get some extra life out of them? This is a fascinating part of the race, because remember, Hamilton needs to add 5 seconds at his next stop or at the end of the Grand Prix.
That's right. They actually practiced that during free practice earlier this weekend. We saw him come into the pits, and there was a long pause before they affected a wheel change, and they were clearly practicing a potential 5-second penalty. So the teams always go through everything that can possibly happen and try and come up with an answer for every scenario. Meanwhile, Bottas fastest on track now, no surprise, as Grosjean comes into the pits for a second stop himself. Is he going to go for the soft tyre? Yes, he is, so that'll take him to the end of the race.
Yeah, well, that was a tidy enough stop from the Haas team, and benefiting from the current Ferrari horsepower. They've got a tidy enough car there.
It is. So how long do Ferrari leave Vettel out there? If he comes into the pits now, he's likely to come back out behind Ricciardo, and Ricciardo's on a set of soft tyres, so that would be tricky for Ferrari. So they're maybe trying to build a little bit more gap at this point.
Well, that's the fascinating thing about strategy. It's not just what you can see out front, it's about where you'll end up on the racetrack, assuming that your competitor that you would be battling at that point doesn't pit as well.
So let's listen to Raikkonen.
Check what happened into turn 4. Low speed is up to her.
We see the issue, Kimmy. We see the issue. I'll come back with any action.
Come on, it's really disturbing.
Driver default A, 5 on. Driver default A, 5 on should fix the issue.
And Perez is being passed by Bottas, so Bottas gains 6th place. Kimi Raikkonen clearly having troubles with his Ferrari, but Bottas on the charge now on the new tyres. Karun.
Taking on from what you guys were discussing there. Remember Melbourne, where Mercedes pitted early, got stuck behind a Red Bull. Ferrari are being very careful not to do that. On the last lap, Vettel 7/10 faster than Ricciardo, so that gap is sneaking out. I think that you're right. They're trying to get him between Raikkonen and Ricciardo. So I think a couple more laps. They're still safe from Bottas. Bottas 29 seconds behind. So Vettel can stretch this out for another 3 or 4 laps to get ahead of Ricciardo. That is the critical point. They don't want to do what Mercedes and this man, Lewis Hamilton, did in Melbourne and get stuck behind a Red Bull.
Yeah, it's fascinating though, Karun, isn't it? Because as Bottas is pushing on and the Mercedes team will be encouraging him to do that, that forces the hand of Ferrari to want to have to make that second stop for Vettel and not have to try and pass Bottas again on track.
Okay, I'm starting to struggle a bit with the tires.
Did he get a response? Well, we didn't hear it, but they will no doubt. In comes Sebastian Vettel. So it is time for Ferrari to make a second pit stop for Vettel. Hamilton stays out there. Let's see if this is a clean stop. Valtteri Bottas going very quickly out on track at the moment. Now let's have a look. He's onto the soft tyre.
He should come out in front of Massa, who's running in 5th place. So slot in between. Well, it could be nip and tuck with Daniel Ricciardo, depending on his lap here. Let's just watch.
There goes Raikkonen. You can see Ricciardo in the background, David.
He'll be out in front of Ricciardo, so that's what they've reacted to. This will all be about the brakes.
This is going to be close, but he's got a good exit out of the pits, and Vettel gets in front of Ricciardo as Bottas overtakes Massa. That is for 5th place. So Bottas now gains another position, and he is very much the fastest man on track currently. Hamilton is now the race leader, not having made a second pit stop. So Hamilton leads. Raikkonen is now in 2nd. Vettel has come back out of the pits in 3rd place, and Ricciardo is in 4th with Bottas charging in 5th.
Well, Ferrari were sharp there. They didn't want to find themselves in a situation where they could be under pressure from Bottas, and they've got themselves out in front of Ricciardo. As Magnussen unfortunately becomes a spectator rather than a driver.
Yeah, an early retirement from this race, and Toto Wolff studying the monitors, wondering what they're going to get from this race. It's not all going to plan, but right now Hamilton is the race leader. So he's in front, but he's done 20 laps on this stint on the soft tyre. Can he really make it last to the end? It would seem unlikely, but at the moment he's got a gap over Kimi Raikkonen, who's in 2nd place. So he's staying out there for now, that's for sure. When he makes his next pit stop, if he makes the next pit stop, remember, he'll have 5 seconds added. And we'll just have a look at what the gap is to Raikkonen. There you can see it's 14 seconds to Kimi Raikkonen and just under 17 seconds to Sebastian Vettel. So once he's made his pit stop, he would be behind them. Actually, if he made a pit stop now, with the 5-second penalty, he'd drop way down. Grosjean just making up a place there. He's down in 14th, now 13th position, as he's got past the Sauber. But yeah, so Hamilton really kind of needs to stay out there if he's going to have a chance of winning this race. And we know that in terms of tyre wear, that's achievable. But in terms of the heat degradation on those tyres, he will be sliding around a lot come the end of the race. Palmer still holding on to position at the moment in 12th, as he is chased for the moment by Romain Grosjean, who is the man moving through the field a little bit.
If Hamilton pits now, he's going to find himself down behind Perez, because he's going to have the 5 seconds added to, or certainly behind Massa, who's running in 6th, because he'll have to take that 5-second penalty at the tyre stop. So they have to try and make the tyres last, because even if he ends up getting caught and passed at the end, it's still going to be a bigger points haul than if they commit themselves to having to come back through the traffic, potentially.
Now, I can't see that Ferrari are going to allow Raikkonen to hold Vettel up here. They will want him through quick.
We need to look after these tires till the end. Hamilton will go long and then come back at the end.
So they reckon that Hamilton will make a late stop onto a set of super soft tyres. That's effectively what Ferrari are saying, and that does seem more likely that he would make a later stop, but it's still going to be tough for him. Now here we go, presumably there'll be a swap of Ferraris here. He's got the DRS in action anyway, and I'm sure that Kimi will have been given the message, don't fight too hard, you're on different strategies right now. And Vettel sweeps back into 2nd position then, with the fastest lap in the race at a 1:34.0, and that means his gap to Lewis Hamilton is just over 15 seconds. So how far will Hamilton go on these soft tyres? That's the big question mark now. We've still got 21 laps to go here. That's plenty of distance on these tyres, and Mercedes' strategy will be they'll certainly be working hard at it now to try and get the best they can out of this. It's certainly looking good for Ferrari right now, and Raikkonen keeping in touch with his teammate, but we're expecting another stop for Kimi Räikkönen at some point soon. He's on the super soft tyre and really very little chance of getting to the end of the race himself. Now, Bottas has caught Daniel Ricciardo in the battle for 4th place, as you can see. And Ricciardo is going to have to start getting pretty defensive, but that might be hard work up against the rapid Mercedes. Look at the gain that Bottas has made in the last few laps. 1.5, 2 seconds, 1.8 on lap 34, and 1.4 seconds on the last lap. So I don't think Ricciardo's going to fight for long here.
No, he's not in that battle, is he? He doesn't have the outright pace. So his battle right now is Massa is about 5 seconds behind him. He should be able to cover him without a problem. It's a question of what Räikkönen, who is a few seconds up the road on Ricciardo. It's really a question of how far Räikkönen can go.
It is. So Vettel again fastest on that last lap, a 1:33.8. Another very rapid lap indeed, but Bottas also going quickly, and he's going to pass Ricciardo this time surely. Ricciardo does move to the middle of the road, but 4th place is handed over easily to Bottas. He can brake later on fresher tyres and take that all the way to the end. So Bottas finds himself up in 4th place now. He'll be going after Kimi Räikkönen. Into the pits comes Perez in the Force India. Hulkenberg's in at the same time, interestingly, in the Renault. And these two have been fighting each other a little bit throughout the race so far. Looking good for Force India to get a double point score here this weekend. That would certainly be a big achievement for them if they can do that. Let's wait and see. They didn't score any points here last year.
Is there nothing that I can do with the issue? And I'm struggling with the tires, so stop me sooner than just waiting what the others are doing, otherwise they will cancel.
Understood. I'm watching it.
They're working on it, Dave Greenwood, coming back to Kimi, but clearly, whatever it is, it's costing Kimi Räikkönen a fair bit of time, so he's asking, can I come into the pits, get an earlier tyre change, but then we can recycle, we can effectively do a reset on the power unit, which I presume is what's causing him the problem, David.
Yeah, he's a good couple of seconds a lap slower, more than that actually, than his teammate Vettel, which is not normal.
Corinne, what have you got for us?
Well, just looking at the lap times, Lewis Hamilton last lap 35.4. I mean, you know, he's not that much slower than Valtteri Bottas, despite the fact his tyres are 18 laps older. Kimi has come into the pits, by the way, in the background. But, you know, that's really impressive pace from Hamilton, but a bit disappointing, you'd have to say, from Bottas. You know, considering he started on pole, it's not really worked out for him. 8 seconds behind Vettel now, and you would get the feeling that if Lewis didn't have the penalty, he'd be clear and away ahead of Bottas. So, yeah, it's not quite been Bottas' Sunday, has it?
Well, Kimi Räikkönen's on his way back out after a decent enough stop, and Massa has stopped on the very same lap as well. 3.5 seconds for Räikkönen, so it's not Ferrari's best, that's for sure. I wonder if that extra second was anything to do with the reset that he was looking for, because I sort of expected it to be either a quick stop or quite a slow stop, somewhere in between there. Now, look at this. You've got Grosjean trying to get past Kvyat. Up ahead of them both is Perez, and they are side by side as they come into turn 1, but Grosjean was able to make the move stick pretty easily in the end. So he's now back up into 8th place, Romain Grosjean. Haas looking for points once again, and that would be good news for Romain Grosjean, who scored Haas's best ever result in Bahrain last year when they had a 5th place finish. Just taking another look at this one, David, all very straightforward.
Yeah, gets a good drive off the last corner, gets into DRS, and you can just see the difference. You know, gives you, upwards of 20 kilometers an hour speed differential into a headwind, and yeah, straightforward, tidy, down into turn 1.
Yet to score points this year, Romain Grosjean had a non-finish in Australia and finished just outside the points in 11th place in China. So would be a boost for him if he can squeeze into those points as we ride back on board with Fernando Alonso.
Now Vettel running a second lap faster.
He was, 300 meters behind us on the straight?
And we're considering plan B. How are the tyres?
Do whatever you want, man.
Do whatever you want. He's grumpy Alonso now. He has just recently made a second pit stop, so I wonder if that radio message was just before he made another pit stop onto the super softs.
Yeah, and just before that I was saying Vettel running a second a lap faster than Hamilton, so he's going to be on the gearbox of Hamilton before the end of the race. And well, if Hamilton pits to take on that second set, he commits himself to finishing, well, he would probably come out just behind Ricciardo with that 5-second penalty, so he would really need to have a sprint on at the end to try and get that third place finish.
And don't forget, Vettel could get on his gearbox if he stays out there, and he'd be in front, because the 5 seconds, if it was added at the end of the Grand Prix, would mean that Vettel would in effect be in the front anyway, even if he followed him across the line. So that's all something that they have to be aware of and adjust for as well. At the moment, by the way, Wehrlein finds himself in 10th place, but that's because people have made some stops.
So it's important to close the gap to Vettel. Lewis has a 5-second penalty, but is still yet to stop.
Yet to stop, so that certainly indicates that Mercedes are definitely going to go for a late stop with Hamilton and put a set of super soft tyres on. So then it's just a question of how far he drops back and how many places he can make up. Will he be able to overtake the likes of Ricciardo, Bottas, his teammate, as they chase down the Ferrari here of Sebastian Vettel? It is looking good for Ferrari at the moment, it has to be said, but Lewis Hamilton is currently the race leader with an 11-second advantage over Vettel.
Daniel Ricciardo heads in.
So a final stop for the Red Bull, the one and only Red Bull still in this race. He goes on to a set of super softs, and that should take him easily to the end with just over 17 laps to go. And Kimi Raikkonen's just set the fastest lap on his new tyres now. Kimi on the soft tyre, so a different strategy being adopted by the two teams there. Red Bull going for the softer tyre, but Kimi Raikkonen, I believe, is on the soft tyre at this stage, not, as it says just there on the fastest lap graphic, that he's on the super soft. So he's actually on the soft, the yellow wall tyre right now. So we've been enjoying some good battling throughout here. We've got Nico Hülkenberg chasing Pascal Wehrlein here, and he's going to slipstream past very easily. And then Esteban Ocon, I think, will not be too far behind him as well. And Hülkenberg, desperate to get some points on the board for Renault. He's had these two really good qualifying performances this year, but they've yet to have a points finish out of it. So there's a very good opportunity for him to do that. He's now moved up into 10th place. Wehrlein busy defending from Ocon. Interesting one, this, because there was talk that Wehrlein might go to Force India for this year, and it was Ocon who got the nod, and he's fighting him hard, but in the end, he had to give way.
Yeah, that was great. We see that get used quite often. The sort of dummy down the outside into 4, or down the inside, that makes the car go defensive, and then you do the cutback and you're able to out-accelerate them and call for a little bit extra battery energy as they accelerate out of 4 and through the kink at 5.
So there is Hülkenberg in 10th place as we just take a look inside the Renault pit. I wonder if they're going to get a point or two out of this one today. They're certainly hopeful of it. We've got Christian Horner joining us again from the pit wall. Christian, presumably that's it for pit stops if everything goes to plan now for Daniel Ricciardo on your side, but looks like Mercedes are getting ready for a stop for Hamilton.
Yeah, that's probably their last stop. I mean, what we're praying for now is obviously a safety car. I think that's our only chance of progressing further up. So Daniel's on that super soft set of tyres now, and yeah, I think that's the only thing we can hope for to bunch the field up.
Interesting how the top teams kind of vary their strategy and which tyres they're using. I mean, are you finding they're performing differently from on Friday?
A little bit. Obviously, the temperature's lower, so our pace on the soft tyre didn't look as competitive as we hoped for. I mean, Hamilton, obviously, on the same tyre, looked very competitive. So, so yes, that we obviously gave ground away. We lost time at the restart. Obviously, Daniel's going to try and fight to get that back now to try and close the gap down to Kimi.
Great, thanks very much. Lewis Hamilton makes his pit stop, then he's got a 5-second penalty, remember. Wait the 5 seconds before you can change the wheels. And now they go for it. And that, remember, was for holding up Daniel Ricciardo in the pit lane in the earlier stage of this race when they stopped due to an incident. That was a much better stop. Despite the 5 seconds, it was actually a good, quick stop. So let's see where he comes back out once again. He's going to be behind his teammate Bottas, who's already gone through turn 1, but he's going to come out ahead, as you see, of Kimi Raikkonen.
Well, kind of puts him back where he was at the end of lap 1 in 3rd place, and a long way down the road is Bottas. So this becomes a sort of battle of inter-team honour. Vettel just looks too strong out front, and Bottas only able to match the same time as the Ferrari driver. So Ferrari looking good to leave Bahrain leading the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, they are looking good for 2 wins out of the 3 Grand Prix, but let's wait and see what happens. There is Sebastian Vettel. Karun, you've been listening in on the radio.
Yeah, Pete Bonington, Lewis's engineers, been on the radio to him saying, you got 16 laps to go, 10 seconds, you can get after Valtteri on track. So he's definitely, with these fresher tyres, going to put the hammer down and try and close the gap as we see Toro Rosso coming in for his final stop. Daniel Kvyat, that is, of course, as Vettel looks pretty safe in front, but we're going to have to watch out for Hamilton now catching up to Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting tussle, isn't it, between those two Mercedes teammates who were on the front row together, but Mercedes have not been able to control this race. The Ferrari race pace has worked out extremely well, and although Mercedes had to pit under the safety car earlier, it still worked for them extremely well, for Ferrari I mean, and they were still able to be in front after that particular stop. So this was Danny Kvyat's stop. Oh, and they were bashing wheels. They couldn't get one off and the other one on.
Yeah, banging rubber together there, and that just slowed down the transition.
And there's Sebastian Vettel. He's just got to keep the rhythm going here. 1:34.5 on that last lap. Very similar lap time to Bottas, who's just over 9 seconds behind. Those two lapping similar pace at the moment. Ricciardo's just set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:33, and we're still a couple of seconds away from the lap record here, which actually interestingly belongs to Pedro de la Rosa in a McLaren back in 2005. Stand-in race that was for De La Rosa, and yet he got the lap record.
Why do we go for this tyre?
It's all based on data, Lewis. We think this is the better tyre.
Lewis felt he should maybe be on the super soft tyre. It's interesting they've gone for that one, because you'd have thought this one would not give them quite the same performance, but as we heard from Christian Horner, teams are finding in these cooler temperatures slightly different reactions from the tyres from what they had here on Friday. So Hamilton now looks to try and close the gap. You can see the interval as he chases after teammate Valtteri Bottas. He is just under 9 seconds behind him.
Well, it's important that he gets off onto the back of Bottas and doesn't allow Vettel to be stealing too many points from him. And you really feel that this has been a race where, you know, Vettel and that early strategy, they couldn't possibly have known, of course, the safety car was going to come out, but it was a brave decision, a racy decision, and they're reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, that early pit stop certainly worked for Ferrari, and it's going to be a game of tactics a lot throughout this year, I'm sure, with cars that are so evenly matched. Hamilton's new lap, by the way, 1:32.9. He is absolutely flying, as you would expect. Karun.
Yeah, I just want to make the point, guys, that, you know, in the last 3 years, Mercedes have been fighting each other, basically, the one side of the garage to the other, and they've been covering each other on strategy and keeping it all fair and equal. This is the third Grand Prix of the season where they're fighting another team, and in 2 out of 3 occasions, they've lost the lead and potentially lost the Grand Prix. You've got 13 laps to go, but potentially lost the lead and the Grand Prix to another team. So, you know, are Mercedes going to have to start looking inwards at the way they make these strategy calls and the way they go about their race operation to take on Ferrari, who, you know, we know they've had a tough time strategically last year, but they're looking really like a different team, a sharper race team, and taking the fight to the Brackley team.
The top 6 at the moment, we have Sebastian Vettel leading from Valtteri Bottas, 10 seconds behind. Lewis Hamilton is in 3rd place. We're watching Kvyat just attack Ericsson here. Raikkonen is currently in 4th place behind Hamilton. Just watch this through, and he's neatly done for Danny Kvyat, so that brings him into 13th position. He's still outside the points, however, and right now Pascal Wehrlein is in 11th place in the other Sauber. I do wonder if there might be a chance for Sauber to get something out of this. So yeah, quickly once again, Vettel leads, Bottas 2nd, Hamilton is 3rd, Raikkonen 4th, Ricciardo 5th, and Felipe Massa's hanging on to 6th. Again, you can see the brake discs glowing on the Mercedes as Valtteri Bottas is chasing down the race leader, or trying to, but actually he's not really, because on that last lap Vettel was quicker. But it is Hamilton, 1:32.8, who is the fastest man on circuit. You can see on the graphic there how Hamilton is quicker in each sector. 0.4 of a second in sector 1, 1.2 faster in sector 2. Look at Hamilton flying now, closing the gap remorselessly to his teammate Valtteri Bottas. And with the amount of speed and grip that Hamilton has right now, I don't think Bottas is going to be able to keep him behind for long. The question is then, is there enough time and enough pace in that Mercedes to chase after the Ferrari that's leading the race?
I don't think they'll. I don't think this is about the Ferrari. Of course, the dream is to win. I think this for Hamilton is him taking everything out of the tyres to get himself up the road of Bottas, his teammate. And just to reassert who's the team leader here, Bottas may have got the pole, but he has not had a comfortable Grand Prix so far. Hamilton looking the quicker of the two drivers, despite that 5-second penalty. Look in the sector times, Hamilton was mighty in the first sector, second quicker than Bottas. What's going on actually with Bottas?
Yeah, it's a bit strange, isn't it? I mean, we know his tyres, he's always done 14 laps on those tyres. Lewis has only done 3 in this stint, but they were a used set, so they've done a total of 7 laps, that set of tyres. They didn't have a brand new set to put him on, but he is closing very, very quickly. He's got the gap down to 4.2 seconds now.
Hamilton is closing on Bottas with used option.
Vettel just being given the information, and as we've seen this year, it's been very much about Vettel versus Hamilton, and that's what Hamilton wants it to be once again in the closing stages, if he can do anything to close that gap sufficiently. Look how much road he's using. He is attacking hard at the moment, but the tyres may not last in terms of giving him performance. They'll certainly last to the end of the race. He won't need to make another pit stop, but how long will they hang on at this kind of pace? That's a little bit more of a question mark. Still setting fastest sector times and closing the gap to his teammate.
Well, he's got nothing to lose right now. Even if he runs out of rubber, he's still going to end up behind Bottas. If he doesn't run out of rubber, he'll get in front of him and he can pick up that second place. He's comfortable ahead of Raikkonen in 4th place, who's a further, 11 seconds down the road.
So Raikkonen's not under any threat either from from Daniel Ricciardo, who's a further 8 seconds back. And then Massa, big gap back to Massa as well. They're all quite spaced out in most of the top 10. It's only at the bottom end of the top 10 it's a little closer. Ocon is just 1 second behind Hülkenberg, so that could always get quite exciting. Don't forget, you can vote for Driver of the Day at f1.com/vote. Who's going to be Driver of the Day for this one? Well, we lost Max Verstappen very early, so sadly I don't think he's going to feature in Driver of the Day today. Right now, Sebastian Vettel's looking good. Hamilton's fighting back, though. See how far he gets.
Who's tickled your fancy? Who'd get your vote?
Right now, Perez, probably. He's made a lot of progress in this race, and he's now got some useful points, potentially, for Force India in 7th place.
Yeah, it's a good call. It's definitely the case, and Hülkenberg there, continuing the Renault dream in 9th.
Vettel at 34.1, 34.1. You've got the pace to win this, Lewis. Come on, mate.
They're still going for it, Karun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at the tyre data. I've sort of understood why Lewis questioned it, because he had used tyres, as we heard on that Vettel radio. So his tyres have done 9 laps in total, including presumably what he did in qualifying. He did 3 laps there. Vettel's tyres have done 13 laps, so not a huge difference. Bottas, of course, with that early stop, 16 laps on these tyres. So Bottas's tyres quite a bit older than Lewis Hamilton and Vettel's.
And Bottas has been told, don't hold Lewis Hamilton up. He's not going to have much choice anyway. Hamilton's got so much pace over him. Oh, look at that. I don't think even Hamilton was expecting him to let him through there.
No, I don't think that was a case of Bottas letting him through. That was a case of Hamilton just instinctively doing what he does. He saw a gap, had a feel for his tyres, and just went for it. So, well, let's give Bottas the benefit of being able to explain after the race what issues he may have had. If he hasn't got any issues, and this is a humbling display.
Yes, because remember, Hamilton's had that 5-second penalty. He also lost more time at the pit stop because of the stacking that they had to do on that first pit stop.
Just further thought, Ben, on if that was Bottas backing out to allow Hamilton through under braking into 13. That's a really awkward corner and a really sort of awkward place to do it. So Hamilton will have noted, okay, he's given me the position, but he's made it quite difficult for me, and that'll get logged away from Lewis later in the season.
Well, let's see if they stay best of mates. They were certainly pretty friendly yesterday.
So Vettel's coming up to back marker traffic. Vettel's coming up to back marker traffic, Lewis. It's still all to play for, mate. Come on.
Yeah, well, Hamilton is still charging. Is he going to be able to close that gap to Sebastian Vettel? The last time they came across the line, it was 13 seconds. But we're going to have to see. They're catching Palmer and Ericsson. They are the back markers being talked about. Let's just take another look at this move.
Well, this is over the rise at turn 12. And, whoa, that really caught Hamilton off guard. So if Bottas was genuinely giving him the play on the brakes into 13, well, as I say, that's an ugly place to do it, and as teammates, you know, you can make choices on that. You can make it easy or you can make it difficult, and Bottas has certainly made it difficult for Hamilton.
Yeah,
let's just listen. Yeah, he has gone on a coast, and you know, given that position to Hamilton there, but I think he could have done it in a better place.
I suppose he's just trying to do it as soon as he could, in effect, because that was the first opportunity that Hamilton was close enough to overtake, so he just felt let him through immediately. But as you say, an unusual place, and Lewis wasn't quite expecting it, had to dive out very quickly. But great reactions as ever from Lewis Hamilton, and he was able to nip past. So can Hamilton chase down the race leader, Sebastian Vettel? The gap is 12 seconds between them, but Lewis Hamilton a second a lap faster on that last lap. But that's not enough laps left, because we've got 8 to go, just over 8 laps to go. A second a lap, well, that would close it down to 4 seconds, but not enough to win. But on top of that, Vettel now into the traffic. So if he loses much time here, Sebastian Vettel, there could be an opportunity for Hamilton.
No, Bottas has radioed into his team to say it's the rear end is all over the place. So he's somehow managed to get a qualifying balance, but not a race balance. You see there, Hamilton easily pulling away from Valtteri as he deals with his issues. And you know, I think you're right, Ben, there just isn't enough laps left for Hamilton, and Vettel won't be particularly feeling the pressure right now. He can just afford to be a little bit more careful on the brakes, a bit more careful in the traffic. You can see here he's up behind Palmer, excuse me.
Yeah, he'll want to get rid of them on this lap, and the blue flags are waving, blue lights around the circuit, of course, as well. And he's through past Palmer. Jolyon Palmer still running just outside the points. In fact, he's dropped back down to 15th place now with another stop not too long ago, I think. And that means he's got some work to do himself in trying to find a way past Ericsson and Kvyat. Alonso still going, by the way. So McLaren, who've had desperate reliability problems this weekend, and Honda really haven't been able to explain why the particular conditions here in Bahrain have been causing them so many problems. But Alonso's still going. He's in 12th place, so you only need a couple of cars to come together in the top 10, and Alonso would be in the points.
Well, it's an interesting situation. We have Hamilton 10 seconds behind Vettel, and then we have Raikkonen.
It's all going to happen at the end. Just keep it up, mate.
Yeah, and that was a great lap by Hamilton, because Vettel it did cost him time, didn't it? Getting past the back marker is down to 10 seconds.
Yeah, 1.8 seconds, the gap, the difference in lap time between Vettel and Hamilton. But what I was going to say is Raikkonen is 10 seconds behind Bottas, and Hamilton is 10 seconds behind Ferrari. Again, just showing the sort of the number ones in the team quite clearly 3 races in is Hamilton and Vettel, and the number 2s right now are separated by the same gap.
Hamilton pushing. I wonder a little bit, David, also, you always remember that these guys have got to think about the whole season, the whole championship. They only get 4 engines to use a year. You get the feeling that he's pushing that engine quite hard today.
Yeah, they'll be monitoring fuel usage. There is a certain amount, you know, about 1.8 kilos of fuel used every lap on this racetrack, so the safety car will help reduce any need to do sort of lift and coast. But you do get the sensation that Hamilton's really got the hammer down and going for it and trying to put the pressure on Vettel and see if that forces him to push things a bit harder than he'd really be comfortable doing. The gap down to 9.4 seconds.
Another 8/10 faster on that lap, but again, that's not quite enough in the remaining time for him to get up to the back of Sebastian Vettel, and I'm sure Vettel is monitoring what that gap is and just judging his own pace, his own speed against Hamilton's performance. It is wonderful. This is the 3rd Grand Prix in a row that we've seen Vettel and Hamilton basically going at it. Now, they've not been wheel to wheel, particularly in this race, but the way it's all worked out, Hamilton is the one now chasing Vettel, and if we're on for a season of this, it'd be tremendous.
Vettel past his cars.
He's past 2, he's got another 3 ahead, so it's Palmer and Ericsson coming up for traffic next.
You can just sense Hamilton loves this. He'd rather be out front, of course, leading, but he loves the fact that he's able to get stuck in and do a bit of racing.
I wonder if he can close the gap to the 5-second mark. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because then it would have all come down to the incident where he was holding Ricciardo up in the pit lane.
Yeah, well, rules are rules, and I wasn't entirely across that one, but that does seem harsh. Pit lane is part of the racetrack, and I don't see why you would, you know, a driver can hold his position on the racetrack as long as he's not causing an obstruction. And well, Jean Alesi there taking it all in.
Yeah, former Ferrari driver in particular.
You get the sense that Jean, if he got the chance to drive one of these cars tomorrow, he'd be right in there.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. A race winner, but just the one race victory for Ferrari in his career. So Hamilton trying to close up, but the gap 8.8 seconds on that last lap, and Vettel responding a bit in terms of pace. He was only 0.6 slower than Hamilton on that lap, so it does look as though Vettel is controlling the pace relatively well. That's a Sauber going very slowly. Ericsson, yeah, he's about to pull off, I think. It's just died on him, I think.
Yeah, he's going to pull that off and give the marshals the best chance to be able to recover that car. It was a puff of smoke, so it could be a number of things. Hydraulic, gearbox, engine.
That's a shame for Sauber. They've still got one car in the race. That's Pascal Wehrlein, who's hanging on.
Gearbox broken.
Oh, what's going on?
Gearbox broken.
Gearbox broken, so, and smoke pouring off the very hot brakes, of course.
Yeah, doesn't look like the easiest place for him to recover the car. He drove past a gap in the arm coat, so...
Well, a safety car now would be exciting, David.
Yeah. Well, they've got the double yellows waved out there. Can they get neutral and push the car away? Big decision for Charlie Whiting and race control. Do they throw a safety car? Yes, please. That'd make it quite tasty.
It would make it very interesting.
Don't do virtual, please. Do full.
Yeah, and the reason for that is the virtual safety car, the drivers have to maintain their gaps, whereas with the full safety car out there, they all close up. But the marshals are on the scene. It's not in a particularly dangerous position. So 5 laps to go and no sign yet. They're just keeping it to a yellow flag, I think, to caution drivers in that area. So Vettel's now coming up to do some more lapping.
And he's lapping, though, where that yellow flag is, so he cannot pass these cars in front. As you can see there, all the marshals doing a fantastic job. I popped in to see the meeting of the marshals this morning, and there's a lady standing there from Silverstone, Silverstone marshal, wearing her bright orange outfit. So it really shows that the Bahrain Grand Prix is an international event.
Vettel didn't have to, or wasn't in position to overtake under those waved yellows, and as the marshals have gotten the car out of the way, he will now have an opportunity to close on this little bunch ahead of him. Kvyat is the first of the 3 just up ahead of him. Then you've got Alonso there and Pascal Wehrlein. They're all still racing for 11th. These guys have been racing hard throughout the Grand Prix, but they're 15 seconds behind Ocon, who's in 10th position and looks set to score the final point. In the background you can see Hamilton, but it's not enough for Hamilton at the moment to really close on Sebastian Vettel in the remaining part of this race. He's surely got to think about looking after the car, or does he keep on pushing and keep on hoping that there is a chance? He's always a racer, is Hamilton. He never gives up. So if he thinks there's any chance at all, he'll still be pushing to the absolute limit. Vettel has already got past Kvyat. So next on the agenda is getting past Fernando Alonso. No love lost between Alonso and Vettel, but I somewhat doubt that he's going to want to try and get involved too much in what's going on at the front of the field here. Of course, Alonso was the last Ferrari driver to win this race in Bahrain when he did it back in 2010, and that was actually his debut with the Ferrari team. It all looked as though it was going to be wonderful for Alonso at Ferrari, that he would win a 3rd World Championship there. Sadly, it didn't happen, and it's now Sebastian Vettel who's part of the revival. Vettel goes down the inside and gets past Alonso cleanly.
Yeah, Alonso, as you say, it didn't make it exactly easy for Vettel, but battling with the car ahead.
So now we've got just 4 laps, or 3.5 laps to go in this race, and it looks as though Vettel is heading for his 2nd victory of the season. Hamilton still putting the pace in, but it's not enough to close that gap any further. Let's just remind you, though, that Valtteri Bottas is still in 3rd place. He's some 11 seconds behind his teammate Hamilton, who's eased away. But Bottas safe from Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen is set for a 4th place finish here this weekend. And Daniel Ricciardo for Red Bull, well, he's down in 5th. It's sort of where Red Bull expect to be at the moment, I suppose, behind the 2 Mercedes, behind the 2 Ferraris, but nonetheless a little disappointing that they weren't able to mix it amongst them, especially after qualifying. Felipe Massa's on target for 6th place here today. That would be a very solid finish. He finished 6th in Australia as well, but it's just the one Williams that's scoring in these first 3 Grand Prix, so not helping them so much in the Constructors' Championship as they would like. And then behind Massa we've got Perez in a fine 7th, particularly bearing in mind that Perez started so far back down the grid in 18th place. It's been a good performance from him. Hamilton, oh, a little look up there as Alonso goes wide and deep, and Kvyat fighting with him. But yeah, let's just see how this one works its way through here. Alonso, oh, is he slowing down?
Yeah, it sounded a bit sick there, but getting out of the way of Hamilton, who's on the charge. So didn't particularly get out of the way for Vettel. Did. That sounds a bit sick, that engine.
Yeah, I'm not sure
he's
that's
running,
very well.
No, he's running offline, so... well...
They got so close to the end as well, David. They've got to lap 55 out of 57.
Probably the most excited person by that is Jenson Button, watching this Grand Prix somewhere as he mentally prepares for Monte Carlo.
So it does look as though Alonso could be in trouble. We'll try and monitor that for you, whether he's managed to keep going or not. And looking in the background, Wehrlein now coming. No, he's definitely very slow there, Alonso. You're getting out of the way now of Jolie and Palmer, and it looks as though it is all over for Fernando Alonso.
Well, it may be all over, but I don't think, bar the shouting, I'm sure he'll have a word with the Honda engineers.
Engine problem, box now.
So he says it's an engine problem. Do wonder a little bit if it might be out of fuel, because he's been pushing so hard in this race, and we know it's a bit tight on fuel, but it's more likely to be an engine problem because they've been suffering them all weekend.
Yeah, well, there's nothing on the dash to tell you that low fuel, nothing flashing.
Yeah.
It could be, though. You never know.
You never know. Vettel across the line with 2 laps to go. The gap to Hamilton, 6.4 seconds, as Kvyat and Wehrlein still racing hard. I tell you what, this is a good effort by Pascal Wehrlein in 11th place with the Sauber. He did this a few times with Manor last year. He scored 1 point, if you remember, in Austria with the Manor racing team as well. He is just outside the points right now, but if he can stay in front of the Toro Rosso, which we think has got some damage on it from earlier incidents, but nonetheless, it would be a great result on his return to Formula One. Pascal Wehrlein, who withdrew from the Australian Grand Prix after the first day of practice, but running in 11th at the moment. In comes Fernando Alonso, and this is to retire. One McLaren Honda failed to even start this race in the hands of Stoffel van Dorn, and the other is a non-finish, and a very disappointing end to the day. He might still be classified, I suppose, in the final result, because we've only got a lap and a bit to go, so he might actually end up with a classification, which from his point of view would be nice, because he's never had a non-finish in Bahrain, a little bit like never had a non-finish in China until the 2017 season came along. Karun.
Yeah, just before you get into the last lap, I've just seen Kimi Raikkonen doing his fastest lap of the Grand Prix at 33.7. Where's that come from? All of a sudden, 2.5 seconds to Bottas. I have no idea where this. We saw this in Melbourne as well. He did his best lap 2 laps to go, and like miles quicker than anything we've seen. So I'm really confused by this.
Very strange. I mean, he has been looking for a reset earlier in the race, so whether they've suddenly cured the problems that the car had, but it does seem a little strange. In the background, Kvyat is going to have another go at getting past Pascal Wehrlein. The sparks are flying. He's going to go and try and go around the outside. They go into turn 1 side by side. Wehrlein hopped over the curb, and Kvyat had to really run wide to avoid contact, and that might be his last chance to get the place, because the gap has really opened up between them now. Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel are on their final lap, and Hamilton is not close enough to attack on this last lap. They were 6.7 seconds separated as they came across the line, and despite Hamilton's best attempts, it's not going to be quite enough. He's not far out of the 5 seconds though, at the 5 seconds that he had to sit in the pit lane for the penalty that was served on him, and I'm sure he'll have some words about that after the Grand Prix. He's fought hard. He's going to have to settle for 2nd place on this occasion, and it means the championship lead will go back to Sebastian Vettel, who led after the first round in Australia. But what we are seeing is confirmation once again that these 2 drivers are going to be the stars of the season, both for Mercedes and for Ferrari. Such evenly matched cars. It all comes down to getting it right on the day, and that's what Ferrari have definitely done here in Bahrain. Sebastian Vettel heading down through the final stages of the lap now, and Vettel heading for victory in Bahrain. Sebastian Vettel takes his 2nd win of 2017, his 3rd win here in Bahrain, and the 44th of his career. Hamilton finishes in 2nd place, some 6.6 seconds behind. We're going to wait for Valtteri Bottas to cross the line in 3rd position. Mercedes second and third on this occasion, beaten by Ferrari. And it's the first time that Ferrari have taken 2 wins out of the first 3 events of a season since 2008, a long time ago now. But it is a much, much stronger Ferrari team that we are seeing this year. Kimi Räikkönen finishes 4th, Daniel Ricciardo is 5th, Felipe Massa will finish in 6th place, and then we're waiting for the others to come through, but it looks as though it's going to be Perez, Grosjean, Hulkenberg and Ocon in that order.
P1, Sebastian. P1. What a race! You were the quickest. You were the quickest.
Woohoo! Yes, guys. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Buona Pasqua. Buona Pasqua. Grazie mille. La macchina è stato un piacere oggi. Grazie. Woohoo!
A very happy Sebastian Vettel, and 2 wins out of 3 Grand Prix to start the season. A brilliant start for him. Only a couple of times was he on the podium in the last 13 Grand Prix at the end of 2016. It's been a complete turnaround in fortunes and in performance. They said he was the fastest. In many ways he was, but the fastest lap of the race went to Lewis Hamilton, in fact, on lap 46, a 1:32.7, not quite down to lap record pace here in Bahrain, but nonetheless a very rapid a lap from Hamilton, who attacked all the way at the end, fastest in the speed traps as well, the Mercedes, so definitely still delivering the power when it comes to these hybrid power units. But it is Sebastian Vettel who has taken victory, Ferrari's 5th win here in Bahrain, and they've ended a sequence of Mercedes victories. They were looking for their 4th consecutive win at Mercedes. Well, that has been halted by Ferrari.
Okay, well done, Lewis, mate. P2. Tough day in the office, but yeah, great drive. Really strong last part.
So Peter Bonington, his engineer, is congratulating Lewis Hamilton. He did everything he could do given the circumstances. It wasn't ideal for him. He wasn't on pole position at the start. Bottas was the race leader. Ferrari made that excellent early pit stop. We had the safety car, which Hamilton lost time on because he had to wait for his teammate in the pit. So there was he lost time there. He then lost time again because he had hindered Ricciardo, according to the stewards, on that pit stop. That caused him another 5-second penalty. So generally he lost a fair bit of time and has only ended up 6.6 seconds behind Vettel. Goes to show if the race had gone slightly differently, Mercedes perhaps could have won it. But at the end of the day, it's all about Ferrari this time, and they have taken their 226th ever victory. It is a 44th career win for Sebastian Vettel. And the 2 Mercedes drivers will be joining him on the podium. Kimi Räikkönen missing out on the podium once again this year. Kimi's last podium still stands as the Austrian Grand Prix of last year. It's 14 Grand Prix since Kimi Räikkönen was on the podium. And it was a little bit of a disappointing run for him for various reasons today. But there's the man who's done it, 2 out of 3 to take the championship lead. Sebastian Vettel ruling in the desert sands of Bahrain. Vettel, the winner here, and the new championship leader.
we're catching in the end. Grazie. Funziona la macchina, eh?
Funziona la macchina.
Non c'è male. I think you will see the trophy here. It's really nice. The trophy is, I think it's one of the nicest.
Fantastic. I keep it.
Yes! I realized already in the first stint I can stay there, but overtake was difficult, but I can stay there. Then the safety car came, I was like, not again! yeah. But I think it came late enough, huh? Yeah, otherwise...
Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
Race winner here.
The wrong car. They were lucky because you were too close to the pit lane. When it came out, I was like, come on, this race.
He's like a little boy, Vettel, today. He's so excited about the victory. He really is. He's loving it. And he was explaining to his chief engineer, Matteo, there, how he was being able to sit behind the two Mercedes in the early part of the race. He realized how strong they were today, but it was difficult to overtake. There was a nice congratulatory hug between Vettel and Hamilton again, as we've seen already this year. And we've also heard, apparently, that there was a tyre pressure problem on Bottas's car right from the start of the race. So the first set of tyres were incorrectly pressurized because they had a problem with the compressor on the grid. So that certainly affected Valtteri Bottas hugely in that opening stint. He's had to settle for third place here today. Second place has gone to the man who's won here twice in the past, fought with Nico Rosberg so famously in 2014. But it's a third victory here for Sebastian Vettel, and he is over the moon about it.
The German and Italian national anthems.
The passionate Italians are happy once again as Sebastian Vettel has taken them to victory. And not only is he now heading the Drivers' Championship, Ferrari have a narrow 3-point lead in the Constructors' Championship as well. They've moved ahead of Mercedes as a result of that. And it's a beautiful trophy to Sebastian Vettel. So from a constructor's point of view, it's going to be very tight between Ferrari and Mercedes throughout the year. Only 3 points separating them after 3 Grand Prix. Red Bull are still third in the constructors. Force India holding on to fourth, by the way, ahead of Williams and Toro Rosso. And Renault got on the board for the first time. Lewis Hamilton receives the trophy for second place on this occasion. Tough race for him, but that pace he showed at the end and fastest lap as well demonstrated it could have been slightly different. And third place going to Valtteri Bottas, his second podium with the Mercedes team, but it was pole position and it's ended up with being third. There must be some disappointment. It's time for the celebrations here in Bahrain. Sebastian Vettel has overturned the Mercedes qualifying advantage from yesterday, and he's reclaimed the points lead he took in Australia. This seesaw season looks set to continue. See there a little bit of conciliation for Valtteri Bottas from Lewis Hamilton, who Bottas must be feeling a bit down, I think, having had that pole position, but having come through with a third place finish. Nice to see that. Hamilton, well, he did everything that he could apart from beat Vettel, and it means that the gap in the championship is 7 points between Vettel and Hamilton. Now, you might have wondered why you haven't heard from David Coulthard for a while. It's because he's out there.
Marhaba, Bahrain. Hello to the race fans around the world. And what a race. So, gentlemen, congratulations on your Constructors' Trophy there. Gentlemen, if you'd like to come on down. So, Seb, your 44th victory. Normally, 44 is a lucky number for Lewis, but you've just added another win. Your third time here in Bahrain, but most importantly, the second of the season out of 3 races. Great day.
Yeah, really a great day. Don't know what to say. It was the last half of the in-lap when all the fireworks were there and the track was lit up. It was, you know, I just love what I do. I didn't find any words. It was a really great team effort today. Right after the start, I could feel that, yeah, we're quick. You know, we can have a word. So really tried to put Valtteri under pressure. He didn't do any mistakes, so it was difficult down the straights to get near him. But then we obviously went for the undercut, early pit stop, worked fantastic, very good job. And when the safety car came initially, I was like, not again. But
yeah, but this time it worked for you.
I'm not sure.
You pitted, and then when you cleared, you got a lap, and then the safety car.
Yeah, but I think I was lucky because the others were just close to the pit lane, so they couldn't really benefit, let's say. But I don't know. I was a bit surprised when I came out ahead of all of them because I thought with the safety car we might have lost the advantage. But after that it was good. The car was really amazing to drive. I had a good feeling yesterday. So for many laps it really worked well. And yeah, it was just a pleasure. I could control the pace in the end. Lewis obviously was a little bit of a threat again towards the end with the traffic, you never know. But yeah, very controlled race. The car, as I said, was a dream today. So happy Easter and thank you very much.
Good, right, we'll come back to you. I'm just going to pop round here beside Lewis. Now, Lewis, pit lane. What do you think of that? That 5 seconds was pretty costly today.
Yeah, definitely. But firstly, congratulations to Sebastian. He did a fantastic job today, and also a big thank you to Valtteri for being a gentleman out there. Obviously, a very difficult race. It didn't start out the best, but yeah, the pit lane was really my fault, and so apologies to the team for losing the time there. I tried my hardest to catch up, but yeah, it was a long way to go. It was 19 seconds, but I gave it everything I could, and you know, Ferrari did a great job today. So we're going to push hard together, regather as a team, and come back fighting.
You know, I'm noticing this year that even when you're not getting the wins, you're sort of, you know, very composed, you know, not too disappointed. What is this then? You really feel that, you know, this is going to be a long game championship?
Of course, the disappointment is there, and as I said, you know, losing points for a team is, you know, particularly when you could have potentially won the race, is definitely painful. But it is what it is, and all I can say is I gave it everything I could. And yeah, I mean, I'm getting old. I'm catching you up.
You'll never catch me up. Anyway, Lewis, congratulations on your second place. Now, Valtteri, after the high of yesterday, it's a disappointing day. So we heard you on the radio talking about struggling to keep the rears alive. What happened with your race balance, and talk us through that?
Yeah, it was really tricky race for me, struggling with the pace all through the race. I think the first stint we found a bit of an issue with the tire pressure, so that explained the rear end struggle. But every stint after that, I was just rear limited, and I was out of the tools in the steering wheel. So yeah, it was just oversteering all through the race, and that's why the pace was slow, which is a real shame, because for sure the target for today was a local tire.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to win in Formula One. You had a lot of support after that pole yesterday, especially from within the team. So you're feeling well settled within Mercedes.
Well, for sure, I think this was overall best weekend for me yet with the team, but there is much more to come.
Okay, well, we wish you luck with that journey. So back to Sebastian. Don't want to disturb your conversation, but the audience would like to hear a few more words. So you seem a little bit surprised by the ultimate pace here today. After qualifying, the pace to Mercedes was a little bit down, but you know, you're right in this championship. You're leaving this Grand Prix leading the World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long year. I'm not really looking at that. As I said, I'm really enjoying the car. It's been a pleasure. It was very good yesterday, and I was a bit down because the gap was so big. I think we could have been a bit closer, but something inside me told me that we have a good car and we can do well. So yeah, right from the first lap, I felt the car was there, and yeah, I think the Easter hunt was on. They were hiding some eggs, but it looks like we found them today. So no, really happy. Big thank you to the team. They've been working incredibly hard. The guy that's been up here, Matteo, works basically day and night at the track in the factory. So really hard, a lot of commitment from every single one, and it's great to see everything is coming together.
Well, we can hear the marshals who've been supporting this Grand Prix celebrating, revving a motorbike here. You've got to say we have a tremendous welcome here in Bahrain. So it's one of your better Grand Prix.
Well, I guess I've been yeah, reasonably successful the last couple of years. I love the trophy. I think it's one of the most beautiful trophies we have. So yeah, when I crossed the line, I was really happy because I knew I was going to get it. So I think we can leave here very happy. Not yet, because we got the test next week. But yeah, for now, I think we just enjoy.
Are you doing the test?
Yes.
You're relentless, aren't you?
Well, I thought halfway in the race that I'm really looking forward already next time to jump in the car, which is only in 2 days' time, so I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, Sebastian, congratulations on your victory. Valtteri in third, Lewis in second. So to everyone in Bahrain, thank you for this great support we've had here, and we'll see you all again in a couple of weeks at the Russian Grand Prix.
Sebastian Vettel has taken victory in round 3, and he leads the championship by 7 points. There's a long way to go this season, but we're on for a classic confrontation.